All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. The Commonwealth would call Officer Kenner Fortner.
Fortner, Officer
Yes.
Fortner.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Officer.
Good morning.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right. Can you please state your name and spell it for the court record?
Kenner Fortner, Kenner, Fortner.
All right. And how are you employed?
I'm currently employed as a sergeant with the Fairfax County Police Department.
How long have you been with Fairfax County?
I've been with Fairfax County for 10 years.
Were you assigned to a particular unit in 2023?
I was a crime scene detective in 2023.
All right. And were you in that role on February 24th, 2023?
I was.
Okay. On that date, did you respond to an incident on Stablebrook Way?
I did.
Why were you called out?
I was called out to assist with the scene documentation of a reported homicide.
And what was your role in that investigation?
I took scene photographs.
Okay. And let me hear from you. What did you observe upon your arrival?
When I arrived on scene, the scene had already been secured by patrol officers. Christine Banfield had been transported to the hospital, and the only person remaining within the scene was Joseph Ryan, who had been declared deceased.
So let me start you with some photographs. Judge, if I can offer into evidence Commonwealths 80 through 89 and have those published to the witness,
All right.
the jury,
80
and the gallery.
through 89 in evidence and can be published to the jury and gallery. No objection. Great.
All right, thank you. So starting with this first picture, Commonwealths 80, starting outside of the home on Stablebrook Way, how many cars did you observe?
There were 4 cars of interest.
Okay, and this picture here, what do we see?
This is a black Hyundai Tucson.
Were you able to later determine who it was primarily driven by?
It was a government-owned vehicle registered to the IRS, driven by Brendan Banfield.
All right, thank you. And in this photograph, we see 2 more vehicles. Can you tell me about them?
Yes, so in the driveway, the vehicle parked in the left spot of the driveway is a navy blue Volkswagen ID that was registered to Christine Banfield. The silver Jeep Cherokee on the right parking space is registered to a Constance Ryan.
All right. And this particular vehicle, this photograph was taken in your shop, is that correct?
This was taken in the crime scene vehicle bay. It was originally parked in the cul-de-sac.
Okay, and do we know who this car was registered to or driven by?
This vehicle was registered to a Brendan Banfield.
Okay.
Is that 82? Just for the record, when you show.
Yes, ma'am, I apologize.
Oh, that's fine.
So this was 82,
Okay, thank you.
the white Ford Fusion. All right, moving into the basement of the home, is it entirely below ground or does it have an above ground exit?
The basement exit is a walkout style, which is level to the ground.
Okay, and can you describe the layout of the basement?
Yes, so if you are standing at the basement stairs, directly to your left at this doorway here leads to an unfinished storage area. If you can continue forward a few feet, you'd be standing in the living room area of the basement, which also included a desk and computer. To the right of the living room area is a bedroom, and then to the left of the living room area was a home gym workout area. And then if you orient yourself to where you're now looking at the workout area with the living room behind you, along the left wall was a bathroom. and then finally another door which led to the same storage unfinished area.
So in your walk through the basement, did you notice anything out of the ordinary?
No,
Okay. Looking at this photograph here, Commonwealth's 83. Can you tell me, was there a gate at the bottom of the basement stairs?
there was.
Okay, from the photograph, it appears to be about hip height. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay, well, my hips anyway. Perhaps someone taller, it's lower, but did it look like it was intended to serve a purpose?
at the time that I found it is as it was in this photo.
All right. Did you notice a lock on the door at the top of the basement stairs?
Yes,
Okay, so looking at Commonwealth's 84 here, is that a photograph of the lock that you observed?
that is a photograph of the lock that I observed.
Okay, was it engaged when you saw it?
No, it's as it was.
Okay. Moving up to the first floor, there was a kitchen and a living area?
Yes,
Okay, so looking at Commonwealth's 85, is this a photograph of the angle of the living area from the kitchen?
yes,
Okay. In this photograph, can I draw your attention to the window area and the stationary object in front of it? Can
yes.
you tell me what that was?
That was a bar cart style counter with 2 bar stools in front of it.
Okay. What, if anything, did you find in the kitchen?
There was a laptop on the kitchen island.
So here in Commonwealth's 86, are you able to see the laptop?
Yes, it's on the right-hand
Is
corner.
it the black object here in the corner?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Did you find what was later identified as Christine Banfield's cell phone?
yes,
Looking at Commonwealth's 87, is this the bar cart you previously described?
it is. This is the back side of the bar cart.
Okay, and where did you find the phone?
The phone is going to be in the middle top drawer of this bar cart.
All right, so looking at Commonwealth's 88, is that the drawer you're talking about extended?
Yes,
Okay, and what do we see there in the middle of the drawer?
it's going to be the cell phone in question.
All right, Commonwealth's 89, is that the cell phone?
Yes,
And Commonwealth's 90, is this the back side of the phone that you found?
yes.
90 we hadn't put in evidence yet, so I took
Oh, I
that off the
apologize.
screen. So do you want 90 in
I do.
evidence? And I understand there's no objections on 90 in evidence. Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Shannon.
Judge, I would then offer Commonwealth's 91 through 97 into evidence.
All right, again, I understand there's no objection. Okay, all
And I
right.
apologize, Judge, I think I had said 98 originally and was just not clear in my speech.
Okay,
Thank you. All
90 to
right.
97, okay.
Detective Fortner, did you have the opportunity to then move upstairs in the home?
Yes,
All right, and did you take photographs of the bedroom belonging to Juliana?
yes.
Okay, is this that bedroom?
This is her bedroom.
And how did you identify this bedroom as hers?
There's a Brazilian flag, excuse me, above the bed, and I also was able to locate an expired Virginia driver's license for Juliana on a dresser.
All right. Commonwealth's 92, is this still her bedroom?
Yes.
What is it that we see on the dresser to the left?
There are hygiene products.
Her personal effects?
Yes,
All right. Commonwealth's 93, is this Juliana's closet?
this is.
All right. Was there anything that caught your attention in that closet?
There were red lingerie-style clothing items, and then the yellow T-shirt with the green border on the sleeves.
Did you have the opportunity to look for any signs of forced entry in the home?
I did.
Okay, and did you make any observations that would have indicated there was a struggle at any other area in the home other than the primary bedroom?
I did not locate any obvious signs.
Thank you. Did you have the opportunity to return to the home on October 13th, 2023?
I did,
Why were you there on that date?
for a subsequent search warrant.
Okay, and on that date, did you again photograph the house?
I did,
Did you inspect the bedroom that had been Juliana's?
yes.
directing you to Commonwealth's 94. Is this the same room?
This is the same room.
How were you able to identify it?
The Brazilian flag above the bed.
Did you notice that anything had changed?
There were no longer any items in the closet.
How about anywhere else in the room? Were her personal effects still on that dresser, if you recall?
I do not recall the dresser.
Okay. Did you eventually find her clothes?
I did.
Where did you find them?
They had been moved to the primary bedroom's closet.
Commonwealth's 95, is this the primary bedroom closet?
Yes.
And was there anything that you saw in the closet that made it clear to you they were Juliana's clothes?
There were the red lingerie-style clothing items and the yellow T-shirt with the green hem on the sleeves.
All right. And Commonwealth's 96, another angle of the same closet?
Yes.
And we see the yellow and green shirt there on the second row?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Had there been any other changes in the primary bedroom?
They had gotten new flooring, new bedroom furniture, and pictures that had once featured Brenden and Christine had been taken down and replaced with Brenden and Juliana together.
So showing you Commonwealth's 97, is this the primary bedroom?
This is.
In October of 2023, 8 months after the murders.
Yes.
And I'm going to zoom in here. Is this one of the photographs you were speaking of?
It is.
Okay. And did we see others in the room?
Yes. That is a second photo.
Okay. All right. Detective Fortner, I don't have any other questions for you. Please answer any directed to you by Mr. Carroll.
All right, cross-examination.
Detective Fortner, there's just a couple of questions based on some of the things that you said, not too many. Commonwealth's number 94 is obviously a picture, and in a moment it shows something, but there were questions asked about you doing an investigation as to any other signs of struggle or forced entry in the house other than the master bedroom.
Yes.
Okay. Describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what would you do to come to the conclusion that there was none of those things?
So I would inspect all of the doors to see if there were any obvious signs or damage to the framing of the door, which I did not find. There were no debris found on the ground to indicate anything had broken. In terms of the furniture in the house, I didn't see anything turned over in an unusual manner to indicate there was struggle or forced entry anywhere.
When did you do that in relation to the incident?
So when I first arrived on scene, my primary task was taking scene photos as everything was, and as I was doing that, I was also checking those areas.
Okay, so this happened instantaneously on February 24th.
Upon my arrival, yes.
And when was that?
Just after 9 a.m.
Okay. And so at that point, had you had any sort of a briefing as to what the expectations were with this crime scene?
Just that it was a report of a homicide.
Okay. Was there anything that suggested a break-in or anybody say there was going to be a break-in?
No, no one had indicated that.
Okay. So this is just something that you do as part of your crime scene duties?
Correct, just documenting.
Okay. And it wasn't surprising for you after you kind of heard more about the case that there weren't forced entry or other signs of struggle anywhere other than the master bedroom?
I wouldn't expect to see struggle anywhere other than the master bedroom.
Okay. Now, the places where you chose to take pictures, were you directed to take certain pictures, or do you just go ahead and just take as many pictures as you can and then see where it goes from there?
So my ultimate goal when I'm taking scene photographs are to take overall photographs to indicate everything as best I can. Typically these come from the four corners of the room from different angles. And then if there's an area of interest, I then come in and take mid-range and then close-up pictures of those items or areas of interest.
And that was those were your decisions, I guess, was the question I was asking.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
All right, redirect.
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Is this witness subject to recall?
He is not.
Do you need your, okay, you're free to go, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, your next witness,
Detective O.J. Falk.
Detective Falk.
And Your Honor, if you will terminate the display.
It is.
Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Can you please state and spell your name for the court record?
Olin J. Falk IV. Falk spelled F as in Frank, A-U-L-K.
Thank you. Directing your attention to February 24th of 2023. On that date, how were you employed?
I was employed as a crime scene detective with the Fairfax County Police Department.
Are you now retired?
I am retired.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Taking you back to that day, did you have the opportunity to investigate a vehicle later determined to belong to Joseph Ryan?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. What were you able to see upon your inspection of that vehicle?
Within the vehicle on the driver's floorboard, there were 2 red cellular phones laying underneath the brake and the gas pedal.
All right. I'm going to show you a picture that's been marked as CAMLOS 155. I'm going to ask that that be admitted into evidence along with 156 and displayed to the jury and the gallery.
No objection, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Detective Falk, do you recognize this photo?
Yes, ma'am.
Are those the telephones that you observed in the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And directing you to 156, is that another photograph of the phones?
It is with the door open.
Okay. And were those items collected as evidence to your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Okay. Had you disturbed them prior to taking these photos?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so that's where you found them.
Yes.
All right. That's all I have for this witness, Judge. Thank you.
All right, cross-examination. All right, is this witness subject to recall?
He is not.
All right, you're free to go, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, your next witness,
Detective Terry Leach.
Detective Leach.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Penalty of law.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, ma'am.
Can you please state and spell your name for the court record?
It's Terry Leach, Terry-Leach.
How are you currently employed?
With the Fairfax County Police.
Are you assigned to a particular unit?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do for that unit?
I'm a detective with the major crime. I've been with the crime scene unit for 22 years, with the last 8.5 in major crimes.
All right. Were you employed in that role on February 24th, 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On that date, did you respond to an incident at Stablebrook Way?
Yes, ma'am.
Approximately what time did you arrive?
It was approximately 9:44 a.m.
All right. And who was on scene when you arrived, if you recall?
Whenever I got on the scene, there was several patrol units, homicide detectives. From my unit, there was Detective Falk, Detective Fortner, Sergeant Fortner now, and Detective Szyminski and myself.
All right. What was your role in this investigation?
I was assigned as the lead crime scene detective.
And what are the general responsibilities of a lead crime scene detective?
The lead crime scene detectives is the primary liaisons between the crime scene section and the lead homicide detective. We're also responsible for managing the scene, delegating out tasks. We also work if there's any needs for any more personnel or equipment. We go with our supervisors. And after we clear scenes, we're responsible for all the evidence handling, documentation. If there's any lab submissions or anything like that, we take care of it.
And that role carries through to today, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so if we want evidence, it's coming from you, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. When you entered the Banfield's primary bedroom on that day, February 24th, 2023, what were your initial observations?
When you first go into the bedroom, on your left-hand side would be I call it a sitting area. It's like a little side room. We're separated from the main bedroom area by a see-through fireplace. In the main room, you had a bed, and it had a nightstand on each side. To your immediate right would be a long dresser with a TV on top of it. On the far wall was a tall dresser. On that same wall as the dresser with the TV was the double doors that led into the primary bathroom, which then had a closet off of it.
Okay. How did you and your team go about documenting this scene?
Once we did our initial walkthrough, we first did photography. We did all our photos, and then I had Detective Szyminski go through with the Faro laser scanner.
All right, tell me about that Faro laser scanner. What does it do?
The Faro is a laser device, and it sits on top of a tripod. And what it does, it uses LiDAR technology. It will spin in a 360 degrees. As it's spinning, it'll do laser measurements. It'll do millions of points of measurement. And then once that's completed, it'll go around one more time, and it'll take photos. Then when we post-process it back at the office with software developed just for that scanner, it will create 3D models and 2D models. The 2Ds are called orthos, and all that is, it's a bird's eye view of what the scanner built.
You shared one of those orthos with me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, I'm going to ask at this point in time to admit into evidence Commonwealth 98 under seal and publish it to the witness and the jury.
All right, no objection, correct? Okay, 98 under seal.
Can you see the Faro on your?
Yes, ma'am. It's the ortho scan of this second floor.
Okay, so help us orient, and it's a really busy picture, you would agree?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a lot going on because this is an interpretation of what was actually present at the scene from this angle and aerial view. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you can see where I've kind of zoomed us in here to this black rectangle at the top that my cursor is on, what is that?
That's going to be the foyer to the main floor, the bottom
Okay.
floor. What happened is why it's black is the Faro is a line of sight.
So it drops down. It's 2 stories, right?
It's a
The
2-story,
foyer's
it's a
wide
very
open.
tall foyer, yes, ma'am. And
Okay.
that's the stairs to the left, right there. That would be the
Yep.
stairs coming up from the landing.
Okay, tell me about, on the left of our screen, this bedroom here.
That was the Peres bedroom.
Okay, and if I zoom out a little bit and reorient us, what's going on in this bedroom in the far left lower corner?
That's the Banfield's daughter's room,
Okay, and this middle bedroom?
guest room.
Okay, so taking us back out to the hallway and then shifting over, which, we're gonna do it like that. What room is this?
And that's going to be the primary suite, primary bedroom.
Okay, and that's the far right of Commonwealth 98, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In looking at
And that's
this,
going to be the primary suite, primary bedroom.
okay, and that's the far right of Commonwealth 98, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In looking at this bedroom, we have a bed, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You spoke of a dresser. Is that this object that my cursor is on here?
That's the dresser with the TV on it, ma'am.
Okay. And this area that I'm cursoring over, is that the passageway into the bathroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, which would then make this room a bathroom. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now that we've oriented ourselves, was Joe Ryan's body still on scene when you arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and approximately how long did his body remain on scene while you did your work?
It was there for several hours.
Okay, and is that how long it took you to document the scene?
We had to get a search warrant, doing the scene documentation, waiting for the medical investigator to arrive on scene
Okay. When was his body removed?
later in the
recall?
day. It was
Later.
it was that day, but as soon as the medical investigator arrived,
Okay,
Later
but
in
your
the day.
work continued after his body was removed, is that correct?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to offer exhibits 99
Okay.
through
99,
And-
100, and 101 under seal.
Thank you, and if they can be shared with the witness and the jury. All right, starting here with Commonwealth's 99. This photo depicts what? What do we see here?
That's gonna be a photo from the bathroom back out into the main area of the bedroom, and that is Joe Ryan's body.
Okay, is this how the scene looked when you arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so before you had begun processing any of the items that you eventually collected?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Commonwealth's 100, is this a photograph of Joseph Ryan's body?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what observations did you make about his body upon your arrival?
Upon arrival, I was documenting right hand was in that position that you see it here, and along with his right hand. The pants were unbuttoned and disheveled in the front. Right leg was straight, and the left leg is underneath the bed with a purple pillow over it.
Did you do any investigation to determine whether or not that was the position of his body when first responders arrived on scene?
Once I had access to the body-worn camera, I watched that to see what the officers originally came into. And when they first came in, the shirt was down and the hands were across his chest. And when they first came in, the shirt was down and the hands were across his chest.
All right. Looking at this photo around Joseph Ryan's head, what is his head on? Let's start with that.
His head was resting on the dog bed.
Okay. And there's a checkered cloth there as well. Were you able to determine what that was?
Underneath it was a pair of pajama bottoms, that's what I refer to as pajama bottoms, and a pair of black underwear.
All right. And tell me about this blood stain that we see immediately below on this photo, Joseph Ryan's head.
Talking about the one ma'am on the carpet?
Yes.
There's a flow pattern. It flowed from Mr. Ryan's head, flowed across and down onto the floor where it started to pool and collect.
All right. Was there blood anywhere else on Mr. Ryan's body that you observed?
There was blood on his face, hands. There was some on his clothes. There was some on his chest, arms.
All right. Did you notice anything about the bed frame? I'm going to zoom in just a little bit if I can. Here. What
The
is
bed-
that mark?
Bed frame had chipping. It's a laminate material over the bed frame, and you can see where pieces were broke off. There's this one large piece. And later, when we continued on investigating, you could take your fingers in that area and you could pull the laminate in that area.
I'm going to move you to Commonwealth's 101. Is this another angle of the same area of the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And again, we see the chip in the bed frame here, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You indicated Joseph Ryan's legs were under the bed.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Judge, I would move to admit photographs 102 through 123.
All right, and there's no objection, correct? Okay. All right, 102 to 123 in evidence. Thank you.
All right, looking at Commonwealth's 102, It appears that the scene has changed, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what has happened since the last photograph?
Since the last photograph, Joe Ryan's body was removed. The blankets and things that you saw on the floor, they were picked up and moved.
And what did you observe now that the items had been removed on the bed frame itself?
On the bed frame itself, if you come over here to if you're viewing the photo, it'll be on the left-hand side. We found one blood stain on the side.
Is that the area where you observed the blood stain?
Yes, ma'am, it'd be to the right of the ruler.
We're going to zoom in one more time. 104,
Yes, ma'am.
that's the blood stain.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you later send a swab of that suspected blood out for testing as item 71?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
Looking at Commonwealth's 105. We're back in time before the items were picked up, but let's talk about those items that you collected. What was in this pile of fabric that we see here?
I had 2 blankets, a sheet, and a towel. The blankets, one was a real dark blue with a white Sherpa on one side. The other blanket was blue on both sides. Sheet was white with stripes, and then you had a towel.
Okay, let's talk about the blue blanket with the white Sherpa. Directing you to Commonwealth's 106. Is this that blanket?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what you've done with it here.
This is back at our facility to document it. I hung it before we could do photos of it and document the blood stains on it. What you see is the top part would be what was near the dresser, and the stuff you see, the stains you see down towards the bottom, was what would be towards the foot of the bed.
And those stains appear gray in this photo. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let's look at Commonwealth's 107. Is that the reverse of the blanket?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the Sherpa side?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And again, the dark marks we see, what are those?
Blood stains.
Commonwealth's 108. What is this object?
That would be the sheet.
Okay, and again, where is this photo taken?
This photo was taken at our facility.
Okay. The marks we see on the sheet, what are those?
More blood stains, ma'am.
All right, and there was a lighter blue blanket you mentioned?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commonwealth's 109. Is this that blanket?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, what did you observe on the blanket?
More blood stains.
Okay, so let's talk about Commonwealth's 110. What is this object?
That's the towel, ma'am.
Okay, so again, where was this towel located?
On the floor with all those bed linens near the foot of the bed.
Did you happen to, in your review of the body-worn camera, see where the towel was when first responders arrived?
It was a little bit further away from the bed. When the first responders came, you could see the bed linens and things from firemen, patrol officers trying to do life-saving. Those linens and stuff started to roll and move towards the bed more.
Was this towel on Christine Banfield?
No, ma'am.
Does this towel have any evidence of heavy staining or blood absorption?
In my opinion, no, ma'am.
So these blankets were moved as the officers addressed Christine Banfield's injuries and attempted to rescue Joe Ryan. Could the blankets that we saw a moment ago have transferred blood to the carpet as they were moved?
Yes.
Were they saturated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there was a lot of blood on those items.
Yes, ma'am.
Could have ended up on the carpet as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So looking at the carpet, can you approximate here where Christine Banfield's body was found? This is Commonwealth's 111.
I used body-worn camera. I watched the body-worn camera to determine that. And it would be the stain that you see on the right-hand side. That was the vicinity of her head.
What did you find when you removed the carpet relative to these stains?
What I ended up doing was, we pulled the carpet back. Our question was, we wanted to see how far down the stains would go. And when we did that, we found that the stain on the left-hand side, underneath the carpet is a foam pad, and then you got the subfloor. The blood soaked through the carpet, through the foam pad, and then onto the subfloor, and created another stain there. The stain on the right, same scenario, again, is soaking down through. But when we got to the subfloor, there was just a little stain, a much smaller stain than what we found from the stain on the left-hand side.
So, to summarize, there was more blood deposited in the stain on the left-hand side than the right.
Yes, ma'am.
You need your microphone, Mr. Carroll, I cannot hear it.
I would object to Ms. Sand's conclusion as to what the detectives just commented on in terms of her question.
What's the objection?
Well, I believe it's without foundation, and I believe that she's leading.
No, overruled, all right, good, continue.
Let's talk about the areas of the carpet that you had tested. Looking at this photograph, and we'll zoom in just a moment, but did you have either of these two large stains tested?
No, ma'am.
Okay, why not?
When I presented to the state lab with the evidence that I had, they didn't see the probative value in it.
All right. Did they give you any explanation for why?
Because her body was there.
Okay. So looking at Commonwealth's 112, did you take swabs from the stains on the carpet that we see here?
Yes, ma'am. If you take where the scale is at and come below it.
All right,
like
that large
Yes, ma'am.
stamp, if you will.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and was that item 42?
That was item 42. I did another swab, which would have been item 43. If you come above the scale, you'll see another stain in there. What I did is I took another sample from the center of it.
And when we're talking about these two stains, to distinguish, we've got 43, and the shape of 43 is different from 42, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how would you describe 43 as a stain?
As a stain to me, it was passive blood droplets falling down onto
Okay.
the carpet.
And what was different about 42? What kind of stain was that?
42 was one large concentrated stain.
Thank you. I'm going to direct your attention to Commonwealth's 113. Did you find a knife?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was the knife found?
The knife was found underneath the blankets, between the edge of the blankets and the bed. And the only thing we could see when we arrived was the handle. And the knife was sitting on its backside, so it was blade up. And then the handle was towards the bed.
Did your review of the body-worn camera tell you anything about the final position of the knife?
This is not the original position of the knife.
Okay, so what did you observe on body-worn? I think we've all seen it too and talked about it, but what did you observe on body-worn?
On body-worn camera, the blankets were, if you're viewing this photo, the blankets have been more to the left. The knife was completely exposed, and you could see during the life-saving that officers and firemen stepped on the knife a few times, and they got kicked and moved around as they were trying to work.
Okay. Did you collect this item?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you send it to the lab for testing as item 10?
Yes, ma'am.
Going to have you look at Commonwealth's 114. Is that the knife and the photograph that accompanied it to the lab?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. So let's talk about guns. Commonwealth's 115. Did you observe any weapons at the scene other than the knife?
Yes, ma'am. There was 2 handguns.
Okay, can you describe those 2 items for me?
One gun was a Glock 19M, with a light kit on it, and the second one was a Glock 43X.
All right, is this photograph of the 19M?
Yes, ma'am.
And the flashlight, you mentioned the light on it that you said, is that the red ring that we
Yes.
see at the end?
Yes, ma'am, it's the light kit. It's a flashlight underneath the barrel of the gun.
Okay. Were you able to identify who owned that weapon?
It was Mr. Brendan Banfield's duty weapon.
Where was it located upon your arrival?
When I arrived, it was on the left side of the bed, about halfway, resting on its right side.
Again, after reviewing body-worn camera, were you able to determine if that gun had been moved?
It was moved, ma'am.
All right, do you know where it was moved from?
It was moved from the front left corner of the bed. It was resting on its left side with the grip portion near the closest to the edge.
Okay, if we're looking at the bed, if I'm standing at the foot of the bed, is it on my right or is it on the left?
Be on your right.
On my right, okay, perfect, thank you. Looking at Commonwealth's 116, orienting myself, this is the primary bed, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and on the right hand of this photo, is that where you observed the gun?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on the body-worn camera.
Yes.
Okay, and was there any residue on this sheet?
There was 2 blood stains on that bed. The one on the right near the edge, and then there's another one on the front edge. And that was from medical waste, because when I picked up that evidence, that when we were clearing off the bed, when I picked up those items, there was blood on them.
Okay, did you send this sheet to the lab for testing?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll show you Commonwealth's 117. Did you make the markings on the photo here?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
red that we see? What were you intending to communicate with the markings that you have on the sheet?
I spoke with the state lab about what we were requesting for stains, and because I knew the one was from medical waste, there was no need to process that because we know where it came from, the point of origin. But the one on the right-hand side is the one I wanted, and so I sent this so they could have a reference to what I was talking to them about and showing it to them.
Okay. If you had just sent the big old sheet to the lab without any specifics, what would have been the response?
They would start processing the whole
Okay.
sheet.
All right, thank you. So, Commonwealth's 119, what do we see photographed here?
That was more blood spatter on the wall.
Did you swab those items and send them, that item and send it to the lab?
Yes, ma'am. I took that largest stain you see to the left of the ruler. That's the one I submitted to the lab.
Missy,
Okay, and that was,
I'm sorry, you said 119, but it says 118.
oh, I'm sorry, 118, Your Honor.
Okay, thank
Almost
you.
118, I
Okay,
apologize.
that's all right, I just want to make sure. Go ahead, I apologize.
Thank you. And this is now Commonwealth's 119. Is that a closer photograph of the same stain?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and again, that was sent to the lab as item 39.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One more here. Commonwealth's 120. What did you process in this photograph?
This would be the laundry basket, and what we're looking at is in this photo, is the front of that laundry basket. Again, I took a swab of its blood stains on here, and if you go down bottom center, you can see a convergence of 2 stains of blood spatter, and that's where I took the sample for the lab.
All right, and was that sent to the lab as item 41?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you took another swab of the laundry basket, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And while this photo doesn't necessarily zoom in on it, describe for us from where you took the second swab on the laundry basket.
The second swab would have been on the left-hand side and be the side furthest from the dresser on the curtain side.
All right, and that's Commonwealth's 121 that we're looking at?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that went to the lab as item 56, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Commonwealth's 122. What do we see depicted here?
This would be the dog bed once Joe Ryan's body was removed.
And again, that black checkered item was determined to be Christine's pajama bottoms, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I see there's some black fabric to the left as well. What is that?
That's the underwear, ma'am.
Okay. Did you inspect those items?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make any observations about them apart from the blood?
Apart from the blood, one pant leg was inside out, and the other pant leg had the underwear around it. If you took the crotch region of the underwear, it was torn, ripped, separated from the other side.
All right. And Judge, if I can terminate the display for just a moment. I'm going to take you back to Commonwealth's 105, which was previously admitted, not under seal. Judge, if this can be displayed to the witness and the jury in the gallery.
Okay.
Detective Leach, there's a piece of black fabric to the left in the photograph near the edge of the bed. What was that?
It was a black shirt.
Okay. Did you make any observations about that shirt other than the fact that it had blood on it?
When we took the shirt and lifted it up and was able to document it better, we found that the back of the shirt was completely cut. It wasn't one smooth cut. You could tell it was jagged because you would have a cut, little pulling it up.
All right. Was it in the center of the shirt that it was cut? Was it to the side?
I'd say center. It was more towards the center.
Okay. And Judge, I'm going to ask to terminate the display. Offer into evidence Commonwealth's 123 and 124 under seal.
All right, and no objection again, correct? Objection. 123 and 124 under seal.
All right, Detective Leach, if the court can publish the photos to the jury and the witness. Tell me about this photograph. We see again, we're back to Joseph Ryan, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is it that is next to Mr. Ryan's left hip, partially under him?
It would have been a black slide and a shoe, slide on shoe, and a backpack.
All right. Did you search that backpack?
After we finished with Mr. Ryan's body and we were able to move him out of the way, yes.
I'm going to take you to Commonwealth's 124. Is this a zoomed in photo of that bag?
Just trying to show the property that was in it at the time, how it was when we found it.
Okay. So if that's how it was when you found it, did you put anything back into that bag before taking this photo?
No, ma'am, that's exactly how it was.
All right. In your review of the body-worn camera, did you see anyone on body-worn put anything back into that bag?
Not that I could observe, ma'am.
Okay. And Judge, I would now move to admit Commonwealth's 125 and publish to the witness, the jury, and the gallery.
All right, 125 in evidence.
And Judge, I'm going to go ahead and ask to admit from 125 through 151.
Okay. 125 through 151, and there's no objection, correct? Okay.
Should be 151. Okay.
No objection, okay. So then we have 125 through 151 in evidence. Okay.
All right. So looking at Commonwealth's 125, is this the backpack after you removed the items from it?
Yes, ma'am.
What observations did you make about the backpack?
Once we opened up the backpack, this would be, the photo is showing the back of the pack from the it's the back inside compartment of the backpack, and there was blood spatter on there.
Okay, so if I open the bag with my two hands and spread it wide apart, this is looking inside the bag.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct? Okay. And what are those marks?
That's the blood spatter, ma'am.
All right. You placed circles in this photo. Did you make those circles?
That's stitching.
I'm sorry, the red lines.
Oh, the red lines, the circles, yes, ma'am, I did that again, this was something I sent out to the state lab. And so I wanted to know what I was referencing when I asked for the exam.
Okay. Did you send that to the lab as item 125? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's talk about the contents of the bag, Commonwealth's 126. What did you find inside?
We took the backpack and we laid out everything and did one overall photo as we inventoried through. And what you see is there's like rubber exercise bands, a metal rod with eyelets in it, lubricant, clothespins, a chain with padlocks with the keys in them, a roll of electrical tape, like a COVID mask, an apricot, and then one that I refer to like almost like a gag.
Okay. Commonwealth's 127, is this the receipt that was found in the bag?
No, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Commonwealth's 127, a receipt that was found in the wallet?
That was found in Joe Ryan's wallet.
Yes, okay. And we can see the wallet underneath the receipt, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that wallet listing out personal lubricant, floss sticks, and apricot?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct? One apricot? All right, and that receipt is dated the same day of your
It's the same
investigation?
date, yes, ma'am, the 24th.
February 24th, 2023. Okay. Did you find, obviously, this wallet, but anything else outside of the backpack that might have been personal belongings of Mr. Ryan's?
Well, I found his coat. His coat was actually underneath his legs near his buttocks area. We took his coat. We found his car keys in the front right pocket, and his wallet was in the front left pocket.
Okay. You also found zip ties, is that correct?
There was zip ties found on the floor, yes.
Okay. Directing your attention to Commonwealth's 128. Okay, this is an interesting photo. Tell us about it. What do we have here?
This is a sheet that's been suspended and it's being fluoresced with a laser.
Why do you fluoresce a sheet with a laser?
We're looking for body fluids.
And did you find them?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did the sheet come from?
This is the fitted sheet from a Peres bedroom.
From the au pair's bedroom. This is Juliana's bed sheet, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you mark this item with the body fluids with the location of the body fluids that you found?
Yes, ma'am. I was going for a lab submission, so I marked those stains that I found for the lab personnel.
All right, and looking at Commonwealth's 129, is this a photograph of the markings that you made on the sheet to identify the body
Yes,
fluid?
ma'am.
Okay. Was that sent to the lab as item 65?
Yes, ma'am.
Turning your attention to Commonwealth's 130, what have you photographed here?
This was Brendan Banfield's clothing.
Okay, and what were the articles of clothing that were collected?
It was a set of his blue jeans, button-down shirt, and a black coat.
And you've put them on a dummy here in approximation to how Mr. Banfield was dressed on the day of the murder, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I used the body-worn camera.
Perfect, okay. What did you do with these items once you had taken this photo?
Somebody had, the coat and the jeans all both went to the state lab.
Okay. Did you mark the jacket for the areas that you wish to have tested?
No, ma'am. This is once it came back from the lab.
Aha, all right. So how did you present this item to the lab?
I presented this one. This one was because of the color. It's hard to see the blood and everything on it. I submitted it to the lab. I said, gave them a synopsis of what happened, and I just gave them the whole as a whole, and this is what they marked out.
All right, so those markings that we see were the selections that the lab made for their testing, is that correct?
That would be my understanding, ma'am.
Okay, and this was sent to the lab as item 121, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commonwealth's 132, we see specifically 2 circles, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And do we know what the lab tested for there?
They were testing for blood.
Item 133, what is this a photograph of?
It's going to be Mr. Banfield's blue jeans.
Okay, tell me about the white L's that we see taped to the jeans. What are those?
It was requested by me, requested for me to take and do, it's called road mapping of the stains. And all you simply do is you take the item and you put down the scales in so many distances apart. There was no set distance, but you just want to make sure you got plenty of scales. Doesn't necessarily mean there's a stain there. We're just trying to document to scale the entire object.
Okay, so they're reference points, is that fair?
That'd be a way of referring to them, yes, ma'am.
Okay. What did you observe about these pants?
That they had blood stains on them.
All right, any particular staining patterns that you observed?
There
Stood out?
was the blood stains on the knee area, and then there was a particular stain that someone pointed out and they requested for me to submit that to the lab.
All right, so we're gonna look at Commonwealth's 134. This now has a circle imposed on the photo. Tell me what that circle is indicating.
Again, this is something that's going to the lab. We discussed it. And it's obvious with the pants, there's lots of staining. This was the particular stain that the graphs requested to be processed.
Okay, and zoomed in here, tell me about that stain. Was it different than the staining on the knees?
Most of the stains that you saw in the pants were like almost like smears, smudges, like they came in contact with blood. This was droplets.
All right, were there more droplets on the pants?
Yes.
But this was the area that was selected for testing?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, that was Commonwealth's 135 that we're looking at for those markings. Taking a look at Commonwealth's 136, tell me about this red circle.
This is on the back of the jeans. It'd be to the left of center, just below the belt line or close to being in the belt line.
And was that item sent along with the other request for testing by the lab?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that one went to the lab as 136. I'm sorry, as all, these were all sent to the lab as 123, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, photo 136, also item 123. Sorry for any confusion. All right, and looking at Commonwealth's 137, what do we have here?
It's that same stain with the drop, just a different angle on it. Just showing it more from the inside the leg outward.
All right, did you have the opportunity to take a look at Mr. Banfield's shoes?
Yes, ma'am.
Commonwealth's 138, are these the shoes that were collected from Mr. Banfield?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make any observations about what was on those shoes?
There was staining on the shoes, on the tops, but there's also staining on the bottom and into the treads.
Commonwealth's 139, what do we have here?
This would be Juliana's left shoe and sock.
Okay, and we're gonna look. Is this the right shoe and sock?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you observe blood on the shoes and socks?
There was blood on the shoes. On the shoes, it was primarily around the soles, around the edges of the soles and underneath the shoe. On the socks, there was red staining.
Okay. You sent the socks to the lab as 117 and the shoes as 118, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the staining on the socks, where on the sock was it? Was it on the top of the sock? Was it on the bottom of the sock?
It was in the toe region, the toe area. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily on the top or on the bottom because of, it's like it looked like it leached a little bit or there was some.
All right. And here we have the bottom of the left shoe, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about your observations on this shoe with regards to the location of the blood.
Blood was towards the toe area. Mine was towards the toes. You can also see that the blood went up inside the tread.
That was 141. correct?
I'm sorry, yes, Your Honor, that was Commonwealth's 141. Thank you. Now looking at Commonwealth's 142, What were your observations regarding the blood on this shoe?
The shoe, the blood was only really near the bottom edges. It's on the rubber sole part. Wasn't up onto the leathers.
All right. Did the socks create a bit of a puzzle for you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what did you do to try to answer questions you had about the blood on the socks?
She had blood on her socks, and I couldn't figure out how they got there. So I took her shoes, because as you can see from the photo, there's holes, air holes for the sneakers. I didn't know if by chance blood might have went down into those holes. So what I ended up doing was I took the shoe, I cut around the sole in the leather part of the shoe, so I could lift up and see inside the shoe.
What did you discover upon taking apart the shoes?
There was no staining.
All right. Did you send anything else off to the lab? I'm going to show you Commonwealth's 143. What is this?
That's the insert from the left shoe.
Okay. Why did you send that to the lab?
That dark area that's circled, and this is the photo that I gave to the lab, and they knew what I was talking about. That tested positive for blood.
Okay. And so that was sent to the lab as item 118. It didn't have a separate designation from shoes 118. It went back to the lab as 118. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? Okay. Did Juliana's sweatshirt, t-shirt, or pants have any blood on them?
Not that I could find, ma'am.
All right, let's look at Joseph Ryan's clothing. Commonwealth's 149. This t-shirt, what, if anything, did you observe about the shirt?
It had the blood staining. A lot of it was near the chest area. You can see it's not like any individual stain. Also, if you come down, as you look at the photo, it'll be on the right-hand side. It's right above the G and the H and Howie's name there. There's a defect.
I've zoomed in and I'm aiming my cursor where you're talking. Is that what you observed?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to determine how that defect occurred?
It appeared it was coming from a projectile, from a bullet.
Commonwealth's 150, what do we have here?
This is Joe's pants.
Okay. What did you do with regard to Joe's pants after photographing?
After photographing, we met with the state lab, and we discussed different options for processing. On this one, because of the way the pants were situated on his body, I had questions about the zipper button area. The lab recommended an MVAC, but they don't have one. So this item was sent to DNA Labs International to be processed.
All right. And so that was regarding the zipper, the button, and the waistband, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were the jeans sent to any other labs for other testing?
Yes. The right leg was sent to the whole pants was sent to Bodie Laboratories, but we requested the stain on the right pant leg to have a technique done that the state lab doesn't do.
Okay.
And so we sent it to them to have them process it in an attempt to see if we can generate any more evidence out of it.
All right. So Bodie tested the stains on the pant leg, and DLI tested the zipper, the button, and the waistband. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you have any other questions about these jeans that could have been answered by the state lab? Or did you feel it was necessary to send them to the other two labs for the specific testing that you've discussed?
This is for the specific testing, because those stains, we're just trying to figure out what caused them, what and what formed them.
Okay. All right. Judge, I'm not sure what time the court wanted to take the morning break.
It's a little early still.
It is. My next bit is a little bit lengthy, and we can break after that, but it will be approximately 30 minutes. I have video to share with the detective.
The video is your next
Yes.
item? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take our morning recess then, and we'll just have to make it through to lunch a little longer, okay? So don't do any outside research and don't talk to anybody, okay? We'll take 15 minutes.
Okay, looks like the court is taking a brief break, typically about a 15-minute break, and then we'll resume. But in the meantime, we got through a lot, starting a little later today because of a situation between the prosecution and defense getting some things sorted out there. But about 10:08, we got underway, and not even 30 minutes into this, we heard from 4 witnesses on the stand, ending with the detective there.
Yeah, and these were all law enforcement officers.
Correct, with Fairfax County. Yes. The first witness that was called was Officer Kenner Fortner. He was responding to the scene that morning, and he basically verified what he saw there. The scene had been secured. When he arrived to the scene, Christine had already been transported to the hospital, and Joseph was still on the scene.
Right, and he emphasized that Joseph's body remained on the scene for several hours while he was there taking photographs, and eventually the medical examiner did come and remove the body. But there was some chatter about, you know, some of the things that had been moved about the room.
And that's the key takeaway from his testimony, I think. For me, that was what struck me, is he verified what we had heard from the prosecution, was that after the murders occurred, they went back with a search warrant and found that Juliana had moved into the primary bedroom.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about that first?
Yeah, let's do it.
You know, in interrogation, though, he talked about a lot of the downstairs area, the kitchen, and specifically was talking about the laptop, Christine's laptop, and Christine's cell phone. And those are important things because part of the accusation includes that Brenden and Juliana were using Christine's laptop. So that laptop was downstairs, but then also her phone. It was in one of the drawers in the kitchen. And the importance there is that the accusation is that Brenden took her phone that morning before he left to go to work and hid it downstairs, and that Juliana was instructed to call Christine's phone, and that phone would be downstairs. So just a little bit of context for you about kind of the importance of that conversation.
Right. So he verified there was no sign of break-in. The items from the day of the murders, the clothing items, her bedroom was all set up as she lived, right, in the house. But he went back in October with a search warrant and realized that the items had been moved into the primary bedroom. So now we have a situation where the killings have occurred and the au pair has moved in with Brenden into the main bedroom.
Yeah, and she actually talked about that quite a bit yesterday. She was asked about, you know, her location where she was staying in the home, and she talked about how when she was first moving into the home, she had her own bedroom. She had a Brazilian flag. She was specifically asked about that, and you heard the officer mention it today. She was asked about that flag, but then you also heard the officer mentioning how when he went in the closet, he saw that yellow shirt with the green stripes, and then he also saw the red lingerie. And the importance there is because of what he then saw when he went back in October of 2023, around the time she was arrested, seeing those same items, minus the flag. The flag was still in that old room, but the red lingerie, that yellow shirt, now in the closet that Brenden once shared with Christine, his wife.
Then we move on to Detective Terry Leach, the lead crime scene detective, and he spent a lot of time about the positioning of Joseph's body and talking about the blood-stained, the blood-stained blankets, the towel, the positioning of the knife, and the body-worn camera. So here's where it gets important as well, because the knife has come up in multiple reports where it might have been tampered, right?
Yeah, and let's be careful with the word tampering because, you know, we don't know what actually happened with that knife. We just know there was movement, right? And was that movement because they were trying to do those life-saving measures on Joseph Ryan?
First responders.
Right, and so there's this conversation that we heard yesterday as well where they were asking pointed questions at some of the people, not even just yesterday, but the day before, who were testifying, asking, was the knife kicked by officers who were at the scene? Was the knife moved? And today we heard this detective talking about how, yes, the knife was moved.
He did verify that as part of his testimony, that the body-worn camera is what he saw as the actual crime scene. The knife appeared to have been stepped on, kicked around by first responders.
And that's his quote there, so that's important, and I think we're going to hear that come back up, you know, throughout this hearing.
Also, 2 handguns found, one of which we have verified now that it was Banfield's duty weapon. He was an IRS crime investigator, and we verified that one of the guns belonged to him, and he just talked about the location. Another key component to this was what was inside Joseph's backpack. They found a lot of material, supplies. Again, just for context, Joseph Ryan was basically found on this fetish website, and it's believed that he was lured to the home to this scenario that they had
this
concocted,
fantasy.
right, to fulfill a sex fantasy, and part of that was, you know, involving some of this stuff that they found in
And
his
I can
backpack.
elaborate if you want. Yesterday there were some text messages that were shared with the jury, and I went through and read all of those text messages yesterday, and it details exactly what, you know, the prosecution says it's Brenden and Juliana having this conversation. Obviously the defense is going to say that Christine is the one leading this conversation, as it is a profile in, you know, believed to be Christine. It's under the name Anastasia, but this back and forth dialogue between the profile Anastasia and Joseph Ryan, and they're telling him to bring the items we saw in that photo.
Very specific.
Very specific
instructions. Okay, so that is where we sort of left off. They were going over the clothing items of, you know, what they were wearing. But let's go back to yesterday, because I feel like this is the last day of court for this week. And of course, a lot came out, but I feel like yesterday was a big day for the defense.
It was.
I mean, it was very meaty with a lot of information and evidence. Basically, to bring everyone up to date, Juliana Margulies, the au pair, has agreed to a plea deal to a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter. And part of that, she's testifying against Banfield, right? So over the last 2 days, the jury members have heard the story of what happened that morning of February 24th. And so this week we heard the prosecution, defense lay out the story, right? And now it's up to the jury to like really see if this is fitting. Defense really tried to expose some flaws yesterday and discredit Juliana.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time having her go through every single letter. I think there were, 70 or so
A
pieces
number of them.
of evidence that they had her pull up on the screen, and they had her read excerpts from these letters she sent to Brenden, her mother in Brazil, her friends, her other family members, I think her brother, and then also to Brendan's mother, Tess Banfield. And that's a name that's important because I think we're going to hear that come up again, because she was supposedly paying for Juliana's attorney
Legal
at the
fees,
beginning of this.
and she was, you know, facilitating the calls that Juliana could make back home to her mother in Brazil. So she is a key person in this. And once Juliana took the government's plea deal, it all stopped. Yeah. So that was what we learned yesterday. Brendan's attorney, John Carroll, during cross-examination, he again presented the countless letters that Juliana had wrote to Brenden while she was in jail. The evidence, the suggestion that she was basically talking with producers about selling her story.
Right.
That was a bombshell in all of this yesterday.
I think it was a really shocking moment for a lot of people, especially people that were in the room, a lot of journalists in that room reacting to this kind of conversation coming up. But I think the key takeaways here were that, you know, she was interested in getting money to tell her story. There was a producer she had been talking to who had not offered her money. And she didn't say, I stopped talking to them because they stopped offering, or they wouldn't offer me money, but she did say she stopped talking to them and they were not offering her money. She did continue talking to, I believe, 2 other producers who were offering her money, and not only offering her money to tell her story, but also she called them her support system. And I think that's really important here, because prior to her taking this plea agreement, Tess Banfield had been her support system and Brenden had been her support system. So now she's switching to saying these journalists were sending her money so she could have extra food. She said the food wasn't enough in jail, so they would pay for that, and coordinating these phone calls for her to have with her family down in Brazil.
So financial support system. Yes. And important to note that piece, because it also suggests that she changed her story once that happened as well, right? That Brenden concocted this whole thing, and Juliana, for whatever reason, went along with it. And out of that, there was a whole lot of back and forth about remembering dates. And, you know, at one point, John Carroll seemed frustrated and basically said to her, I'm sorry, but it seems like you're not remembering a lot. You know, your memory is not serving well when it comes to dates and what happened on this time frame. And there was a moment in the courtroom where they took a break because of that.
There were a few moments, right? It got very intense at different points. There was one moment where she said, people have brain blocks. You know, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but she said people can't remember everything.
Defense mechanism.
Right. And he went on and said, well, you seem to remember everything when the prosecution was asking you. And so there was this awkward moment of, why was that? And, you know, I think that's going to, you know, stay with the jurors of what they saw, and that kind of the forgetfulness that she has when she's talking to the defense. Is it because her story isn't true, or is it because she's been on that stand for hours?
I
and is
mean,
exhausted?
John Carroll definitely tried to find some flaws in her story, right? And
her credibility.
And her credibility, absolutely. So they also pointed out the financial struggles, and also that she basically had all of these letters, and I think the letters were really exposing not only her you know, dialogue with the journalist or the producers, but also the fact that she was dealing with some personal issues as far as depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and we learned a lot about that emotional roller coaster that she was going through, which he questioned her about as well.
Right, and in the beginning you saw the letters where she was telling Brenden, I love you, I'm never going to do anything to hurt you, I have your back. Then it turned to the, why am I doing this for somebody? Why am I
facing life in prison for something I did not do?
And then we saw the conversations start to be with her mother complaining about her attorney. And the reason that's important is because in order for you to sign a plea agreement, you have to say you're satisfied with your attorney. And so he brings up all of these things where she's complaining about her attorney, saying, I would fire him if I could, but it's too close. And he says, when you signed that plea agreement, were you satisfied with your attorney? And there was this moment of, how do I answer this question, right? And the prosecutors came back up and they asked her about that again to clarify it and say she was satisfied at the time of when she signed that plea agreement. But in order to sign a plea agreement, you do have to tell the judge you're satisfied with your attorney.
That's right, and prosecutors are recommending for Juliana a time served for her testimony, and possibly, I would presume, be sent back to Brazil.
Likely.
Yes, and Banfield facing life in prison if convicted. So we are again in day 4 of this Brendan Banfield trial. So far, Katie, you covered this story when it broke nearly 3 years ago. Are you finding anything interesting as you compare, you know, from the reports and what's unfolding in court?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things have been interesting. We had heard a lot of this chatter about the affair and the relationship and the accusations that he and she orchestrated it. So to see that, you know, being said on the stand and seeing the faces of the people who are saying, I was a part of this, I think that's a lot to take in. You hear it, but then to see the faces. And, you know, there are real people involved here. There is a 4-year-old, now probably 6 or 7 years old, little girl who lost her mother, and now her father is facing a possible life sentence. So a lot here.
That's a lot here, yeah. To your point, just a really emotional thing to watch if, you know, your loved one being, you know, faced with life in prison or something serious. Okay, let's check in with our producer here. Scott, how much more time do we think this break is going to be? Okay, so we're about a minute away possibly from the courtroom proceeding to resume. This was just a short break because we are possibly going into a lengthy...
Yeah, she said about 30 minutes, and she also said there's video, so I'm curious to see what that video is. You know, we've already seen the body camera footage, we've heard some 911 audio, and actually during the lunch break, we're gonna play some of that audio for you. Obviously, there's some that's very disturbing.
Chilling.
All of it's disturbing, but we're gonna play you some of that audio. We're also gonna look back at that body camera footage and listen back to some of the different clips of Juliana during her interrogation, if you will, up there on the stand yesterday. So I think it'll be good to kind of take a look back.
So be sure to stick with us because, as Katie mentioned, during that 1-hour lunch break, we are going to be here and we're going to really dissect sort of the last few days. Jury selection got underway on Monday, and I was surprised at how quickly the jury members were seated for such a high-profile case and given the publicity around it. But they were able to seat a jury of 16, 9 men, I believe, and 7 women, Fairfax County residents who was unaware of the details of this case. So that happened Monday, and the first day of testimony was Tuesday. So here we are on Thursday.
We've already heard from Juliana.
And we've heard from the star witness.
right?
Yes, yeah. And the big question too is if Brendan Banfield will take the stand at a point, right? So stick with us during that hour. We're going to take you through sort of the days and the chilling 911 calls and walk you through what we have learned so far in the Brendan Banfield murder trial. Do we want to go back live inside the courtroom now as they resume court?
Yeah,
okay.
So we're going to be
Looks like
getting
they're
back
taking
in
a
there,
few more
but yeah.
minutes.
And you know, they got a little bit of an early start here, so she did mention that they might take a later lunch. I will say we got through a lot this morning. You know, yesterday it was all Juliana, but today we really are back on that speed. And you know, Frank, when I was talking to him yesterday, Frank Salvedo, our legal analyst, who's going to be coming back with us on Tuesday, he was talking about how he was surprised at how fast they were moving, but we definitely saw it slow down quite a bit with Juliana, and it's clearly picking back up. I'm curious to see when the next slowdown will be, because they moved through today.
They moved quickly, I think, in the first 48 hours of the case.
Right.
But when we got to day 3 yesterday, it really did slow down as I watched it back. Juliana had spent nearly 2 hours on the first day on the witness stand, exhausting, right? But then the second day, when she resumed the stand, she was testifying for well over 5 hours.
Right.
And peppered with questions, re-asked in different ways, and that is partly what probably led to her frustration at one point, right? So we're gonna play back those sound bites where you
hear
was
the
clear.
frustration,
Yes.
and you could see it in her face. There was one moment where you see her take her glasses off, and you could see her eyes for the first time. We really haven't been able to see her eyes because she does have the glasses on. It does look like the judge has taken the stand and the jurors are back. So we're going to take you back inside the courtroom, and we'll see you during the lunch break.
All right, thank you. Your next question?
Thank you. And I'm going to go back for just 1 second. We left one out. Detective Leach, I'm going to have you look at Commonwealth's 151. I would offer this into evidence if it has not yet been.
It is in evidence.
All right, wonderful. If that can be published. Detective Leach, this is, to back you up just a little bit, we're back on Joe's jeans. We've zoomed in here. You were talking about what specifically was sent to DLI.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain again what we see here and what you asked DLI to test and why?
DLI would be the zipper region in the area of the waistband around the buttons, the button and the buttonhole, and to the sides of them.
Okay, when you say the zipper, are you talking about the tines on the zipper or the pull?
The whole area, ma'am.
The whole area,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
And why did you send that to DLI to be tested? Not
Yeah.
why DLI, but why did you send that to be tested?
Because of the way the pants were positioned on the body, to me, when we got there, the pants, you saw in the one photo how the pants were undone and down a little bit in the front. When we rolled Mr. Ryan's body to place him into the body bag, we found that his pants in the back were caught up on his butt, so it was caught up underneath his butt cheeks. And so to me, I didn't know if someone might have tried to manipulate the pants. I don't know. So
Okay.
my job is to find the answers.
Perfect, thank you very much. All right, give me just one moment. This time Commonwealth would offer 152. 153 and 154 into evidence.
And no objection, correct? All right. 152, 153, and 154 in evidence. Thank you.
All right. So, to your knowledge, was surveillance video collected from the McDonald's restaurant located at 2475 Centerville Road in Herndon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you see that pictured here on this fantastic Google map?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it's labeled on the map, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are you aware of the distance of this McDonald's from the Banfield's home?
From the Banfield's home, there's a couple of different ways to get there, but they're all probably under 3 miles.
Okay, thank you. And Judge, I'm going to move to stipulated video clip 153, Commonwealth's 153. All right, this is the vantage point from the McDonald's drive-thru. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this car creeping in here, that's Mr. Banfield's car, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the timestamp on this video, to your understanding, is that the correct time, 7:18 a.m. on December 24th, 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and we just saw his car leave the drive-thru, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, and that's his car returning to the drive-thru, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, we've changed camera angles and we now see Mr. Banfield's car here pulling up to the ordering area, is that correct? Yes, ma'am.
All right, and changing angles again. We're at the pay window, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And we've changed angles now to the receiving window and exit area, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was a Honda Ridgeline, now we have Mr. Banfield's car, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. The Hyundai.
Okay. Okay. So from this vantage, if you look in the top left, do we see his car pulling out straight from the McDonald's drive-thru?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm going to take you back for just 1 second to our map. And I'm putting my cursor here over the drive-through pickup area. Is that your understanding of its location?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so we saw his vehicle exit in the direction of my cursor, is that right? Just pulling straight out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now Commonwealth's 1:53, our timestamp has moved on to 7:29, so it's been approximately 8 minutes, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And we see him,
154.
I'm sorry, 1:54, and we see him pulling into a parking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's Mr. Banfield getting out of his car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we've changed angles and we see him going into, do you understand that to be the bathroom of the McDonald's?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's at about 7:29 and 30 seconds-ish. And so I'm gonna try to move this on a little bit. We're gonna go to 7:30. Just kind of advancing it in 30-second increments. He's still in the bathroom, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody else has gone in the bathroom. Is that what that looked like? That wasn't him,
Yes.
right? Okay. Okay, and someone's come out of the bathroom area. Still not Mr. Banfield. Okay, we've hit 7:37. So he's been in there for approximately 7 minutes at this point. Do we now see him exiting and on his phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And our camera angle shifts and we follow him still on his phone out to his car. And is it 7:37 and approximately 30 seconds that he's getting in his car still on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He's backing out. And we see his vehicle leave the area, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And again, this angle from the window, you see him drive off, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then this angle, we see him head out onto the road, presumably towards home. And that's his black Hyundai turning left in the left side of this video.
Yes.
Is that correct? All right. Judge, if we can terminate the display for the moment. All right. Did you have the opportunity, as the guy who keeps all of the evidence, to take possession of Brenden and Juliana's cell phones?
Yes, ma'am, later on in the investigation.
Okay. And do you have those here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to ask that these items be marked as Commonwealth's 232 for identification purposes, Brendan Banfield's cell phone, and item 233, again for identification purposes, as Juliana Peres Magalhães' cell phone. And if I can have those handed to the detective, please.
They're already open. I had no charger. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And Your Honor, I will note, I am going to ask him to turn them on so that we can look at the screens. We do not have a way to ensure that they do not make noise in the courtroom if someone were to try to
I understand.
call one of the numbers.
I understand.
All right, so let's start with the Android, Mr. Banfield's phone.
Still charging, still powering up, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
It's still powering up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, ma'am, it's up. It's
All
working.
right, so if we take a look at 232, Your Honor, I'd like to put it on the projector, if I may, please.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Are you still want it to the witness, or are you going to admit it into evidence at this time?
I am not going to admit the phone into evidence. Judge, I'd like to have the jury be given the opportunity to look at it, and then I have still photographs taken of each of the screens that I will offer into evidence as 232 A, B, C, D, E, and F.
If it's not in evidence, the jury can't look at it.
I was under the impression that the court would not want the object with its password given to the jury to be able to manipulate for themselves, and so we have photographs of the screens. I can
I mean, you
simply
can enter
show those
evidence.
photographs if there is no objection to moving directly to those items.
Is there any objection just to moving to the photographs?
I've seen these, so I don't.
Okay, no objection.
Makes it
Okay, let's just
easy.
do that
Thank
then.
you. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. So then we are not going to display it. We are simply going to move to the photographs.
We're going to the photographs.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry
Judge
for the
Johnson.
confusion.
That's okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
If I may have the court's indulgence to pull up the
Yes, that's
pictures.
fine.
All right. So Judge, at this time, the Commonwealth would move to make Commonwealth's 232A a photograph of Brendan Banfield's phone screen call log.
No objection? No objection to our 232A.
All right, and if I can have that displayed to the witness,
Yes.
the jury, and the gallery. All right, Detective Leach, when you turned on the phone and worked your way over to the call log, is this what you saw?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and we can note that it has a record of calls from, at the top, we see February 24th, and then timestamps for each of the received or outgoing calls. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And we see an incoming call from Juliana at 7:37 a.m.
Yes.
We see an outgoing call twice to Christine Banfield at 7:38 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then within the same minute, another outgoing call to Juliana.
Yes.
And then again at 7:42, 2 more outgoing calls to Christine Banfield, correct?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then after that, it looks like just missed calls
Yes,
during times that we know Mr. Banfield to be interacting with law enforcement. Is that correct?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Judge, if we can terminate, I'll then move to 232B,
Okay.
although somehow the picture is marked A. This is B, despite its title. All right. If we can then offer into evidence Commonwealth's 233, it is 233A.
So not 232B?
Nope, it is 233A.
Okay, 233A.
Yep, 232 being Mr. Banfield's phone, 233 being Juliana Peres Magalhães' phone.
But 233A.
233A, all right, and if everyone can take a look at this. All right, Detective Leach, is this the call log that shows up when you turn on Juliana's phone?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Okay, and we can see a handful of calls that occurred on the 24th, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Commonwealth would next offer 233B into evidence.
Any objection to 233B? All right, 233B in
Okay,
evidence.
so here's 233B. We have an outgoing call at 7:36 a.m. that lasted for 5 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
To a contact identified as Christine.
Yes.
Okay. Then 233C would be offered into evidence?
You already had 233B is in evidence.
C, I'm
C,
sorry,
all right.
233C.
C, okay.
Any objection? Mr. Carroll? I'm going to move, I'm sorry? No, I'm about to. Yeah. Are we still casting?
No.
Okay.
Any objection to 233C?
This
Just
is
going
C.
to take a quick look
Okay,
at
sure.
it, Judge.
Yep.
That's it. Okay, no objection.
All right, 233C.
All right, and if that can be displayed. All right, and this is a call record indicating calls at 7:37 a.m. for 19 seconds and 7:38 a.m. for 47 seconds as an incoming to a contact identified as Brenden. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Judge, the Commonwealth will now move to 233D
233D.
and offer that into evidence.
Any objection? Okay, no objection.
And if that could be shared. Detective Leach, this is an outgoing call from Juliana's phone to 911 at 7:47 that lasted 7 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Okay. And Commonwealth's 233E.
Any objection to 233E?
No, Your Honor.
All right, E in evidence.
Okay. This phone call shows a missed call from a 703-877-3038. Do you know that to be the 911 direct number or the exchange?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is a call from 911 back to Juliana's call that was missed according to the phone. Is that correct?
According to the phone log,
According
yes,
to the
ma'am.
phone. Okay. I'll now move to Commonwealth's 233F.
Any objection to F?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 233F in evidence.
And I'd ask that be published. This is our last one, I promise. This is a log of calls to 911. We have a canceled call at 7:48, a canceled call at 7:49, and then an 8-minute outgoing call from Juliana's phone at 8:02 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your Honor, I do not believe I have any additional questions for this witness.
Can I
Clarify exhibits?
I have a question. Well, 144 through 148, you asked to be admitted in evidence, which we admitted in evidence, but I don't have any. You didn't display any 144 through 148.
If I can have the court's indulgence for just one moment.
Sure.
Judge, I would withdraw the request for 144 through 148.
All right, so withdrawn 144 through 148. Okay, now we're fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor.
To do the pictures? Yeah, just let me know.
Good morning, Detective Leach.
Good morning, sir.
I just have a few questions for you. And I think I'm just going to kind of go backwards from where we ended up with regard to the pictures, if that's all right.
Yes, sir.
You raised, you actually decided, I believe, that DNA Labs International was going to be included in the examination of the zipper area and the pants area. And I think you had said something about it, they had tools that the DFS doesn't have?
Department, yes, sir.
Okay, and so, were you the one who made the decision that DLI was where this was gonna go?
I met with the state lab. I was out at their facility, spoke with them, showed them what we had, and they actually recommended
Okay.
using the MVAC for that process.
Okay, and the MVAC is designed to pick up finer particles, is that right?
The MVAC is like a wet vac you would use in your house. It uses moisture in a vacuum, so it injects the moisture, then sucks that moisture back up.
Okay.
And it's used for DNA collection.
And that's something that Fairfax County Police nor DFS has the ability to do?
Not at that time, we did not, no,
Is
sir.
that so that's the only reason why DLI would be brought in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, were their samples then, if you know, were they then analyzed by them, or were they analyzed by DFS at that?
I would not know that, sir. That's for the examiners,
Okay.
the lab people, sir.
Okay. So in conjunction with DFS, you decided that this was a resource that we needed to kind of find the opportunity for and get them to do what the MVAC.
Yeah, we wanted an area process, and with the recommendation of the lab,
Okay.
we went through DLI.
Now, I didn't quite catch I guess you had suspicions because in the zipper region, it appeared that the pants were being opened the way they were left when you found them.
When we arrived on scene, as you saw through the photos, his pants were undone, the zipper was down, and the pants were pulled down slightly. And we were trying to determine why that was. And
And that was pulled down on the backside, so.
on the back side of the pants, if you're facing a person, it angled from the front down towards the back. And the back pants, the top of the jeans were underneath his buttocks.
Okay. And that caused significant enough concern that you had to go to that area?
It was an answer, I was trying to answer that question is why the pants were like that, and if they were, who did it?
Okay. Now, item number 135. So just so it's clear for the jury, the picture's number is 135, but you were also talking about 123 when we were in the middle of that. That's actually the number for the sample that went to the Division of Forensic Science, correct?
Which item was 135?
It said, it was the one that you said the graphs told you to go and get.
The graphs.
Graphs.
Yes.
And so that would have been relating to the genes of Joe Ryan, I believe?
There's the
Do
genes
you
of
mind?
the,
Sorry?
I think 135 I have is the genes of the defendant. But
Oh, I'm sorry, genes of Brendan Banfield.
If Your Honor wishes, I can.
did you want to see the picture?
Yes, I think,
Okay,
the witness probably would be.
okay, that's fine.
Please.
This is the picture 135 that you were discussing?
Yes, sir, that was a stain on Mr. Banfield's pants.
And those circled stains, You're saying in the back of the pants?
That's on the front leg, front right
Okay,
leg.
front right leg, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought. And so, had these pants already been sent to the Department of Forensic Science prior to this submission?
No, sir.
Okay, so these were left until such time as the graph said, we need to know what that is.
Yes.
Okay, and and so they went ahead and you sent that to the Division of Forensic Science and then it was analyzed?
Yes, they requested me to take and submit it to the state lab. I contacted the state lab, explained the situation to them, and they were willing to accept them.
Okay, and are you the one who decides, as a general rule, what's getting tested, or is it the lab that decides what's going to get tested?
It will be the lab, sir.
Okay, and in this situation, had you made, prior to getting the guidance from the graphs, had you made the decision that this was not something that you wanted to get tested?
It's not that I didn't want to get it tested, sir. As we progress through the investigation, new evidence, new questions come about, and we try to answer those. And so when we got to the pants, this question came up,
Okay.
and I said I thought it was a good suggestion, and we submitted it.
And so, what time in the timeline of getting to today? When was that sent on to the lab? Do you know?
That was, I'd have to refer to my notes to give you an exact date on that one, sir.
Do you have access to those?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, that's fine with me.
According to the request for laboratory examination, I submitted them to the state lab on 5/15/2024.
5/15/2024. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And were there any detectives involved in the decision in that situation, other than yourself?
My supervisors were aware, the homicide detectives were,
Okay.
and there was a discussion.
Who was your lead in the homicide section at that point?
Lead homicide detective,
Yeah, who were you keeping informed?
at that time would have been Detective Goodell.
Detective Goodell?
Yes.
Okay. Had Detective Bryant already left at that point?
Yes, Detective Bryan and Detective Goodell were basically team working it.
Okay, gotcha. I had a couple of other questions. So just to kind of go a little further into it, the state, when you bring a pile of evidence there, the state lab's going to determine what they're willing to test, correct?
We don't bring the evidence to them initially, no, sir.
So you have a discussion with them and say, this is the evidence we have, we're thinking about bringing it to you?
Yes.
And then the discussion occurs?
We go, like on this particular case, we went out there, met with them, myself, homicide detective. We discuss what we have, we show them what we have. We seek any suggestions or thoughts from them. We tell them what we would like to submit, and then they will go through that, and then they'll let us know what they will accept.
Okay, so they're the final authority.
Yes, sir.
And so if something hasn't been tested that you might have wanted, they explain to you why that wasn't going to happen and it didn't get tested.
They have their reasons, sir.
Okay.
I can't speak for them.
And so if someone who wasn't privy to that conversation, the only way we can know that they've asserted their authority is that something wasn't tested.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I just have a couple of questions regarding some of the other things that you've testified to. Bear with me. Now, did you take into account the injuries of the people as you found out in the investigation as to some of these stains that you observed?
Could you clarify that question, sir?
Did you take into account the injuries of the two people who were injured and were contributors to blood stains and blood spatter and things like that?
On this case, yes, sir. It's because we had two people with wounds and injuries.
Okay.
And that was Christine Banfield and Joe Ryan.
Now, when you look at the initial body camera, I think it might have been Officer Baumler's. Did you look at that?
I looked at several body-worn cameras, sir.
So the first one first one in, into the room.
The very first officer?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think that, along with what we've heard of the 911, you've heard that too, correct?
I didn't listen to the tape, sir.
Okay. Christine Banfield was on her side and was asked to do that by the 911 operator before first responders came. Would that account for the larger and deeper blood stains that you've described that were near the bed area where you say it was her?
Well, she was found on body-worn camera away from the bed on her left side facing the bathroom with her head closest to that tall dresser.
Right, and did you know that she was rolled over?
Once I saw the body-worn camera.
Okay. Now, the carpet area near Christine's body that you've identified, it's a large stain that you've talked about.
Yes.
Was that tested for blood?
No, sir.
Okay. And that's what you were talking about, was soaked all the way through?
That was soaked only, the stain closest to the bed, sir,
Yeah.
was the one that soaked all the way through the pad down to the subfloor, had the larger stain on the subfloor.
Okay.
The one where Christine was found, it did soak through, but not as much of volume, and the stain that was on the wood of the subfloor was significantly smaller than the original stain on the top of the carpet.
Okay. And was the significant stain larger than the other stain? Was that tested?
No, sir.
Okay. And so just so I'm clear, so the stain, as you looked at the picture that you observed today, the larger stain that went through to the subfloor was the one next to the corner of the bed.
Yes.
Do you want to see that picture, Mr. Carroll?
Yes, Your Honor.
111, I believe.
Let me,
You'll have to pull up 111.
Okay, there we go.
Mr. Carroll, the picture on the screen if you want to.
yes, yes. So I'm looking at the picture in the same direction you're looking.
Yes,
The
sir.
one that you, just so I'm correct, the one that you indicated had the larger stains that went all the way to the floorboard was the stain near the bedpost of the bed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's the one that you've testified was not tested.
Cliff, to make it a little simple for you, my notes, that stain that you're looking at, I designated as blood stain 1. Blood stain 2 is going to be the one closer to the dresser.
Yes.
Blood stain 1 and blood stain 2, neither were sent to the lab for processing.
Okay. And so we're not sure who the contributor of that blood on blood stain 1 and blood stain 2 is.
No, sir,
We don't have any confirmation through DFS.
we don't have DNA forensic, but we have body-worn camera showing her body position.
Okay. Now, do you know where Mr. Ryan, Joe Ryan, was located in the room when he was shot, based upon your
No, sir.
examination?
No, sir, I know where his body was at when it fell.
Okay. And that was the one near the dog bed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible if he was, Mr. Ryan was shot at the foot of the bed, which is where those stains are, that the blood would be in the same area?
If that's where he was shot, it could be, yes, sir.
Okay. But there's no way of knowing that?
No, sir.
Okay. If Ryan's blood was on the carpet in the area that we've just talked about, and an object was placed on that carpet, could, depending on whose blood it is, could that blood transfer to any item that was put on that area? That makes sense?
Clarify, no, it didn't, sir. If you could clarify, please.
So if an object was put in this area where we have the two blood stains, we
Yes,
don't have
sir.
to say who they are because we don't know. But if there was an object that was put there, could those blood stains with the magnitude of them, could that transfer to whatever object that is?
So what you're asking, sir, if I'm clear, is if an object is put down in one of those blood stains that's picked up and then moved and put into another location, could it transfer those blood?
Yes.
Yes, that's
Okay.
possible, sir.
Do you have, in terms of I know you only have a limited kind of focus in this case, but do you have any idea whether my client is a right-handed shooter or a left-handed shooter?
When I documented his property that was brought to me from that was collected at the hospital, he had his holster on the right side and was a right-hand draw holster.
And that would indicate he's a right-handed shooter, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you saw when the original responders arrived, isn't it true that he was tending to Christine down on his knees, and you would have, the original first responders were coming to him from his right side, correct?
As they approached into the room, that would be correct, sir.
Okay.
Because he was on his knees facing the bathroom. So as they would approach Christine's feet, and as they would move upward, it'd be to his right.
Okay. And at that point in the, I strike that. Brendan's gun had blood on it, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there any way in your investigation to know where that blood came from?
No, sir.
If it had been sitting in that large and deep blood stain that we just talked about, could that have transferred to the gun?
That's possible, yes, sir.
Okay. Was the blood on the gun tested?
No, sir.
Okay. Was that an issue that was of concern to Fairfax County Police, or was it up to the lab to not test it?
Objection calls for speculation, given that phrasing of the question.
I'll sustain, if you want to rephrase your question,
Okay.
Mr. Carroll.
Who made the decision as to testing that particular item for blood?
It came to the state lab, sir.
Okay. So it was submitted to the state lab. Was there a request from Fairfax County Police, or is it just after talking to the state lab, they said, we're not going to do that?
Excuse me. The gun was originally sent to the state lab for firearms, and part of the policies is as my understanding with the state lab is, once a weapon goes through firearms testing, they will not do the DNA testing on it.
And would that be because it was contaminated?
This contamination issues is my understanding. Again, sir, that's my understanding. The lab personnel would be the best that's their field of expertise.
Okay. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your field of expertise. And so, did this particular gun, before it was sent on to Firearms, was it tested for hair or fibers or anything like that?
It was all done by visual, sir.
Okay.
I took the weapon and I documented and looked at it.
And did you see any hair or fibers
No, sir.
on the gun?
Not just the blood stain, sir.
Okay. Now, did you encounter carpet fiber in your crime scene?
We encountered carpet fiber and dog hair.
Carpet fiber and dog hair?
Yes, sir.
And were they analyzed to say, oh, this is carbon fiber and this is dog hair, or just eyeballed it?
I'm using your term, I eyeballed it. I observed it, looked at it, and documented it, and it was discussed with the lab.
Okay. And I'm not suggesting, I'm not trying to be
No,
quippy with eyeballing, just you observed it. And obviously, there's a dog bed there, so that probably is not a bad conclusion, but we really don't know what's fiber and what's dog hair.
no, sir.
Okay. Now, the cell phones that we were just talking about, I think we saw the screenshots of them. So it would be Juliana's cell phone. Was there blood on Juliana's cell phone? Do you know?
I was not the original person who collected them, sir.
Okay. But it came to you guys?
The phones were, once they were collected by the detectives, went to computer forensics.
Okay. Gotcha. So you've never, other than just looking at what you saw today, you've never had the phone?
Just collecting the evidence. When I say collecting, the evidence, once computer forensics and everybody was done with it, it came to me, and then I would take it and add it into my inventory and then take it to the property room. So that, I think what you're asking is, did I ever physically open it up and go through them? No, I did not.
Okay. So you wouldn't know if there's blood on there or not?
No, sir.
Okay. I don't have any further questions,
All
Judge.
right, redirect. All right, is this witness subject to recall? Yes. All right, is he subject to recall? Okay, so you're free to go. Thank you. Thank you, Detective. Have a good day. All right, your next witness?
The Commonwealth would call Matthew.
Could you turn your microphone on because I didn't quite hear the name?
Commonwealth would call Matthew Niederreiter.
Thank you. Matthew Niederreiter.
I don't think they admitted it in evidence. You want me to take it with me? Okay.
I'm gonna have just a second to get it set back up.
I'll wait outside.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law? Thank you.
Can you vocalize your answer, please, sir?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just step right up. Make sure you speak clearly into the microphone.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. How are you? Oh, afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Great.
Can you please state and spell your name for the court record?
Matthew Niederreiter, Niederreiter.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Niederreiter. What is it you do for a living?
I work at a window factory, and I sell windows and set up projects for people to do home improvements that has to do with windows and doors.
All right. I'm going to offer into evidence at this point in time Commonwealth's Exhibit 157.
Any objection to 157?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 157 in evidence.
And if I can have that displayed, please. Mr. Niederreiter, I'm going to ask you to take a look as I scroll through these documents. Do you recognize these materials?
Yes, this is all information from my company that I work at, the window factory.
All right, wonderful. And does it talk about a triple pane glass window option?
Yes.
Tell us about triple pane glass. What does it do?
I sell a lot of windows, and most people are happy with a double pane product that's very good for energy and such. And you can get regular glass where you can add to it sort of an energy coating that would make double pane windows very good and meet Energy Star type levels. When someone goes to a triple pane, that's another level, and that is a type of level where they're trying to do more than just protect the house from the sun.
What else does a triple pane window offer?
Most of the customers that I deal with that are looking in that direction are.
I'm gonna ask you,
Oh, no.
just to answer the
No, no.
question, what does a triple pane window offer?
Oh. It would make the product 30% better in energy savings and noise level.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to then ask the court to admit Commonwealth's Exhibit 158.
Any objection to 158?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 158 in evidence.
Mr. Niederreiter, again, I'll ask you to take a look at the documents on your screen. Do you recognize these documents?
Yeah, that is an invoice from our factory.
Okay, and as we scroll down, we see a number of windows were ordered on this invoice, is that correct?
Yes, a large amount of windows.
Okay, and was this for the Banfield home located at 13230 Stablebrook Way?
Yes.
Okay, and do you recall when those windows were installed?
I believe they were ordered in August and installed sometime in December.
All right, thank you very much. I have no further questions of this
All right,
witness.
cross-examination.
Do you want me to leave the documents up? There were some, but nothing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Niederreiter. My name is John Carroll. If I ask you any questions that you don't understand, please stop me and ask me to ask the question again.
Yes, sir.
Understand? Okay. So you are a manufacturer of windows,
Yes, I work at a factory where we make our own products.
and what's your job?
I am in sales and project development.
Okay, and so in sales and project development, you're here testifying about this. I'm assuming you went out to the Banfield home?
Yes, I was there at least 3 times.
Okay, and this whole process started in early '22, correct?
Yes, approximately in end of January, early February of that year.
Okay, and so that would have been when you were first notified, or would that have been the factory was notified saying they're interested in looking at windows?
Yes, someone contacted the factory and said, I'd like a person to come out and give us a free quote.
And were you privy to that initial contact?
No, I wasn't just told an address to go to.
So you don't know if it was Brendan Banfield or Christine Banfield?
I do not know that, yes.
Okay, and so the way it works with your factory is someone calls in and says, we're interested in windows.
Yes,
And then your job is to go out there and reduce, loss of heat by 30% or 50% or whatever it is that they want, correct?
yes, I frankly just ask them what is important to them, and then I just measure.
Okay, gotcha. And do you recall when you went out to the house?
Oh, yes,
And when was that?
late January of that year.
Okay,
So that's when the process starts,
Okay.
that's the first thing I do is go to the home.
gotcha. And then you go there and, not to presume this, but you would measure all the windows that are going to be replaced?
Yeah, I have to walk the entire landscape of the house, in and out, and do a lot of measuring and counting.
Okay, and you did that?
Yes,
And this was a full window replacement on the house, correct?
when you say full, do you mean all the windows?
Yes.
Or do you mean, yes,
Okay. All the windows. And so how long would that take from the time that you first meet them to manufacture a full house worth of windows?
Well, there's several stages, meaning that I just start with a quote,
Gotcha.
and then it goes from there. If somebody actually orders, then from deposit to install could be any time between 8 to 12 weeks.
Okay. Gotcha. So if I understand you correctly, you go out and do the initial measurements, you give them the quote, then it's in their court to contact you.
Yes, we may follow up with, do you have any questions? Are you still interested?
Gotcha. And do you remember who you spoke with in any of those follow-ups or anything like that before the August order?
Yes, I do.
Who was that?
Nobody really contacted me until July.
Okay. Who
But-
was it who contacted you?
Brenden,
Brendan.
or the husband, I believe.
Okay. And did you meet him?
Oh, yes, of course.
Is this the person that you met?
Yes.
And you were aware that he was shopping it around with 7 other window places, correct?
Yes, they usually tell me that, hey, you're just one of many bidders. You know.
Okay. And in this instance, you knew that to be the case, correct?
Well, sometimes people say that, and that isn't the case, but I always expect that.
You were told that, I guess I should say.
Yes.
Okay. And this was this in January when you first came out and measured, that you found that out?
There was more communication in July.
Okay. Did you find out about other potential competitors in January when you came out to measure?
No.
Okay. Were you, okay, that's fine. And so we're talking about triple pane glass, and you indicated there's a 30% energy reduction, and there's certainly a noise component to it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so in January of 2022, he was talking to you about noise, correct?
No.
Okay. He told you wanted triple pane, correct?
No.
Okay, so what was your quote that you based off of?
The initial quote was for the double pane energy glass window, a more of our standard
Okay,
style window.
and that was what you went out on January 2022 to sell him?
Yes, that's what I went out to quote, and I think they believe they got the quote like early February.
Okay, and that was, and that was, the quote was for double pane,
Double pane.
and it was increased to triple pane.
Yes.
Okay. And when you were talking about the quotes, was there any discussion of the pathway of Dulles Airport going over their house?
No.
Okay. Was there any discussion of a fire house right next to their house? Anything like that?
No, not to my knowledge.
So there was no discussion about noise at all?
There was a discussion of what would be the benefits in July of if somebody got a triple pane window and the cost associated with it.
Okay, but the specific noise, was there any discussion about that?
Not that I recall.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
All right, redirect. All right, is this witness subject to recall? Is this witness subject to?
He is not, Your Honor.
No?
No.
Okay, you're free to go, sir. Thank you. Have a good day. All right, your next witness?
Judge, that would be Amy Shotwell.
Amy Shockwell.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law? Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon. Could you please state your name and occupation for the court report?
Yes, Amy Shotwell. I work at Silver Eagle Group in Ashburn
All right. How long have you worked at Silver Eagle Group?
since 2012.
Okay, so taking you back to February 24th of 2023, in the 3 to 4 months preceding February, were you employed at Silver Eagle?
Yes.
Okay. What do you do there?
Okay.
I should.
I am a manager. I'm the responsible party on the business's federal firearms license and the custodian of records for that purpose.
All right, and so did you provide us with some records for
Yes.
this case? Okay, I'm going to ask the court to please admit Commonwealth's 159 into evidence.
Any objection to 159? All right, 159 in evidence.
All right,
Published.
Ms. Shotwell, if you'll take a look at these documents, I'm going to scroll through them. Do you recognize these documents?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start with number 1. What do we have here? A firearms transaction record. What does this tell us?
This is a federal form that is completed when a prospective purchaser of a firearm wants to take possession of it from a dealer. So it's a transaction between a dealer and an individual to purchase a firearm.
Okay. And looking here at page number 7, is that a continuation of that transaction record?
That is the background check that is used in conjunction with the federal form.
Okay. All right, and here on page 11, what do we have? Is this a record from your company?
This is a record from our check-in software at our front desk for customers who come in to use the range.
Okay, and so whose record is this?
Brendan Banfield.
Okay, and these check-in dates, are those the number of times that he appeared at your range?
Presumably.
Okay, and what do people do at your range? What
Shoot-
type of range is it?
Firearms shooting?
Okay,
Okay.
and we can see that he was present on October 29th and then again December 23rd, both in 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is this document here?
That is the receipt of payment for a firearm in conjunction with the federal form that you first showed me.
Okay, so this is a purchase for a Glock 43X pistol, is that correct?
Yes.
And that purchase was made on what date?
January 28th, 2023.
Thank you. All right, and we have another visit detail. Who is this one tracking the visits of?
Juliana Peres.
Okay, and she appeared on those same dates as Mr. Banfield, is that correct? October 29th and December 23rd of 2022?
It appears so.
All right. In your search of your business records, did you come across any record indicating that Christine Banfield had used the firing range?
I did not.
Or any record that Christine Banfield had accompanied her husband to use the firing range?
I did not find a record under that name.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Good afternoon, Ms. Shotwell.
Good afternoon.
My name is John Carroll. If I ask any questions you don't understand, just let me know, please.
Mr. Carroll, could you raise your microphone up a little bit? You're just a little taller than
Yes,
Ms. Sands.
yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Who's Samuel Hummel?
He was an employee at Silver Eagle Group on the date that the firearms transaction occurred.
Okay, and he's because it says on the one of the forms that you were just looking at and you identified that he was the firearm transferor, correct?
He was the representative of the business. So the business information is on one of the pages above his name as well. But yes, he was the employee who assisted.
And he's no longer there?
Correct, he's in Texas.
Okay, so the actual details of the firearm transaction, if my client were to say why he got it, anything like that, that wouldn't show in those records.
Why your client purchased a firearm?
Yeah,
There's
why
no
or
reason.
any sort of discussion that went along with that.
There's none of that information included in that paperwork.
Gotcha. And the entrance and, I guess, there's no exit, there's just entrance records. That just shows from a computer printout that these are the days that these people went there, correct?
Yes.
And in order to find out if somebody else had gone with them on a certain date, we'd have to tell you what name and then try to line them up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you were requested to get the records for Juliana Peres Magalhães and my client, correct?
Yes.
And so that's why those actions connect up.
Yes.
Now, would you have any knowledge as to whether the new firearm that was purchased in the purchasing record was ever used by Brendan Banfield or Juliana Peres Magalhães?
No, I would not have that
There would be
information.
no information to that?
Correct.
Okay. Would you have recognized my client?
No.
Okay, so you're just strictly the documents and these are the records and this is that. Okay.
Correct.
Well, I won't ask you any questions you're not going to have the answers for. So thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, redirect? All right, I assume she's not subject to recall?
She is not subject to
Okay.
recall. Thank you.
You're free to go. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Your next witness?
Judge, it's going to be, Douglas Gutekunst.
Okay.
Do you have any exhibits? Okay, cool.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Could you first please state and spell your first and last name for us?
My name is Douglas Gutekunst. That's Douglas. Gutekunst, Gudakkunst.
And can you tell us how you are currently employed?
I'm a fingerprint specialist with the Fairfax County Police Department.
And are you assigned to any specific division within the police department?
Yes, our section is referred to as the Novaris.
Is Novaris an acronym?
Yes, it stands for the Northern Virginia Regional Identification System.
And how long have you been a fingerprint examiner for Novaris?
It will be 8 years in February.
And has that entire period been within the employment of the Fairfax County Police Department at Novaris?
Yes.
And you examine more than fingerprints, correct?
Also palm prints.
And what are the duties of a fingerprint examiner?
We are tasked with comparing fingerprints to known samples and known samples to known samples. So to sort of decide and make decisions whether or not the two fingerprints we're looking at originated from the same finger or palm.
And can you tell us about the training that you've received in the area of fingerprint examination and identification?
I have an undergraduate in forensic science from Mercyhurst University and a graduate degree from George Mason University in the same, as well as a large number of industry-specific training courses.
And during your career, can you estimate the number of fingerprint examinations and identifications that you have engaged in?
It's not something that we track. It is easily in the hundreds of thousands.
Are you a member of any professional organizations?
I am a member of the International Association for Identification.
And have you testified previously in court?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
7, I believe, maybe 8,
And any of those times in Fairfax County?
all of them.
Have you previously been qualified as an expert in any court in Virginia in the area of friction ridge examination and comparison, also known as fingerprint examination and comparison?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
7 or 8.
And at this point, Judge, I'd move to admit Mr. Gudekunst as an expert in the area of friction ridge examination and comparison, which is also known as fingerprint identification and examination.
All right, any objection? You want to voir dire? All right, no objection, so moved. Thank you.
Can you describe for us what a latent print is?
A latent print is a reproduction of the ridges found on the surfaces of our hands, and also our feet, but primarily our hands. When you touch an item, you leave that reproduction behind, but it's not readily visible. That's why it is latent. It needs to be processed in some way to be made readily visible.
And what does a fingerprint examiner do with a latent fingerprint?
In our office, we receive them already processed. We don't do the processing ourselves. So we receive latent fingerprint evidence from the police department. We assess them for quality. We can search them through different databases that we have access to of known fingerprints, and we can compare those fingerprints to the response list that we get, as well as compare them directly to requested subjects.
And are there any complexities in working with latent prints?
Yes, they can be very complex. They are not all automatically very good quality latent prints. When you touch something, it doesn't necessarily leave a latent print. It may. That latent print can be very small, very fragmented, very low quality, unable to visualize clearly, and different processing methods can also degrade those qualities and make them less helpful or useful.
And are there different levels of details to a fingerprint?
Yes, we classify the levels of detail that we look at in a tiered system 1, 2, and 3 in smaller and smaller granularity. Level 1 detail is an overall flow of the ridges, the pattern type. Level 2 detail is going to be independent ridge path, where we watch one particular ridge and we can see it doing a thing, either stopping or splitting. And then level 3 is going to be those even smaller than that. This ridge has a pore here, or is thick, or is thin, or different characteristics on the very edge of the ridge. Those are level 3 detail.
And can you tell us what a known fingerprint is?
A known fingerprint is an intentionally recorded reproduction of the friction ridge skin on the hands, or sometimes the feet, that is taken intentionally and under controlled circumstances with traditionally ink. Modern days, most of them are done electronically, but still ink is occasionally used, where ink is applied to the hand, and then the hand is touched to the contrasting paper or the scanner with no ink. And then those are kept as a known sample of the friction ridge skin of that person.
And what do you do when you compare latent prints to known prints?
We have a process that we call ACE-V. So when we get a latent print, the first thing we do is assess or analyze that single print in isolation. Is it a fingerprint? Which way is towards the tip of the finger? What is the pattern type? How is it processed? How much detail do I see? And at that point, we usually make a decision. This is of value for comparison, or this is not of value of comparison, or it may be a limited value for comparison. Once we've assessed that print and analyzed it, we then do a side-by-side comparison. That is the C in the ACE-V, where we look for similarities and differences. We note how similar or how different the spatial relationship between this branch of a ridge is 3 ridges away from that branch of a ridge, and they're all working as a constellation together. After we've completed our comparison side by side, we weigh the information that we've discovered in that whole process. We evaluate it, E in ACE-V, and we make a decision. Those decisions are three types, either an identification, and that the two fingerprints did originate from the same source, an exclusion, where those two fingerprints did not originate from the same source, or an inconclusive, where we aren't able to make either of those determinations for many reasons. Then that process, those cases are given to another qualified fingerprint examiner who verifies it, the V, which is the same process that is ACE. So it's really ACE with two different people, so ACE V.
And in this case, did you receive latent prints during the investigation?
Yes, I did.
How many of those latent prints were suitable for comparison?
In the initial submission, there was multiple versions of a single latent print that were suitable for comparison.
And in this case, did you obtain known prints?
Yes, I did.
How many sets of known prints did you obtain?
I obtained 4 sets of known prints.
And did you obtain prints from Joe Ryan and Christine Banfield?
Yes, I did.
And where and when did you obtain their prints?
I obtained them at the medical examiner's office on, I believe it was February the 28th.
And how did you obtain their prints?
I went to the medical examiner's office and I used ink and paper to collect the known prints.
And the known prints, did you obtain known prints from Brendan Banfield and Juliana Peres Magalhães?
Yes.
And where and when did you obtain their prints?
I obtained those at the Fairfax County Public Safety Headquarters on March the 2nd.
And how did you obtain their prints?
Also with ink and paper.
Did you compare the latent print in this case to the known prints of Christine Banfield, Juliana Peres Magalhães, Joseph Ryan, and Brendan Banfield?
Yes, I did.
And after comparing these items, did you draw any conclusions?
Yes, I did.
With regard to Christine Banfield and Juliana Peres Magalhães, what did you conclude?
That the single latent print in this case that I looked at for this was not from either of those hands.
And with regard to Joseph Ryan and Brendan Banfield, what did you conclude?
It was inconclusive to a single finger from each of those people.
And the latent print that you were asked to compare to the known prints, where did that come from?
The item that I received is a CD with digital images on it. The digital images were titled knife and then number dash number. So this was, the one I used was knife 3-3.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Mr. Carroll is going to have some
All right,
questions.
cross-examination. Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Mr. Goodkins.
Good afternoon.
The known fingerprints that you received from my client was on March 2nd, 2024, correct?
I believe so.
I think that's what you just said.
Which, I don't remember if it was 24 or 23. I'd have to check the card.
I'm sorry, 23.
That makes more sense.
Okay, and you were there, my client was there, and he basically gave you access to his hands, and you took it down on a print card, correct?
More or less, yes,
So
that's correct.
the ink and the pad, and then you put it onto an actual print card or something that you work with?
Yes.
Okay, and so you had an opportunity to meet him at that time, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and was there any difficulty in getting that print from him?
No.
Okay. Now, specifically regarding the three, I guess, characterizations. I guess number one you said was a known match. What was the first one?
For the conclusions, you mean?
Yes, yes.
So we have 3 conclusions. One of them is called an identification. Which
Identification,
Is,
okay.
and the other is an exclusion, and then an inconclusive, which is neither of those.
Okay, and you indicated there's numerous reasons for that, correct?
Yes.
Now, So is there other than the fact that your test was inconclusive, are there other, is there anything else to draw from that other than that particular determination is that it's inconclusive?
No.
Okay, so there's no inference one way or another?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you did fingerprint analysis on other items of investigatory material in this case, correct?
There were additional fingerprints that were submitted to me, yes.
Okay, and is it fair to say that if they seek a fingerprint match or the opportunity to see if it's been identified, they would do something to get the evidence to you in order to have the known print or the latent print?
I'm not following, I'm sorry.
So for example, if there was like a safe that they wanted to check fingerprints on, would you go to the crime scene lab and get something to see, something so that you could have a latent print? I'm just asking because you had said that you went to crime scene or you went to wherever.
I went to the medical examiner's office.
Okay, the medical examiner. If there was pieces of evidence where you were asked to get fingerprints for, would you go to the crime scene to get if in fact something was there at crime scene?
No, that would fall under someone else's responsibility.
Okay, so you wouldn't be the one who did that. Just in terms of the medical examiner, you would go to them.
Correct, yeah, in this case, I went to collect the fingerprints from the decedents.
So it would be incumbent on the Fairfax County Police to find the latent, put the latent into a form in which you could work with, and then you would then analyze it to determine what it was you needed in order to identify it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was there ever anything done relating to any cell phones in this case?
I don't recall ever receiving any latents from a cell phone in this case.
Okay. Were you asked to do any sort of fingerprint examination on any laptops in this case?
No.
Okay. What about a gun safe? Were you asked to do that by anyone in forensic science?
No, not in this case.
Okay. Now, were you asked to do an analysis of prints on a letter that
Objection.
was received?
What's the objection?
Judge, this goes beyond the scope of direct and assumes facts that are not in evidence.
Overruled, go ahead.
Were you asked to examine a letter as part of an investigation that would have started in around June of 2025?
Yes, I was provided with some processed letters that did exhibit friction ridge marks.
Okay. And so there were marks on there, correct?
Yes.
And were you able to identify any of those marks, or were you waiting for further from the Fairfax County Police?
I was waiting for additional known exemplars from the people that are known to have touched the letter before I continued the examination.
Okay. And did you ever receive those things?
I did not.
Okay. And so is that investigatory request just not done?
I made it known that I needed the exemplars to continue several times. I was never scheduled to go and get them.
Now, you and I talked or had an opportunity to have a phone meeting sometime in November, I believe. Is that correct?
I don't remember if it was November, but I remember talking to the phone.
And that was a follow-up for one that we were supposed to have in October that I was in a trial and I couldn't get to.
That sounds correct, yes.
Okay. When was the last time you heard from the detective from the Fairfax County Police regarding this particular item that needed to be examined prior to our meetings?
I reached out a couple of times. It was prior to your meetings. I don't recall the last one. I did speak with him afterwards as well.
Okay.
So after that time.
Would that have been in this year or in the last,
It would have been last year.
okay, would it have been around the October timeframe that we were talking?
No, because it would have been after I actually spoke with you, which
Okay.
was in November, I would think.
And did anything else get done?
Not by me.
Were you provided anything by the Fairfax County Police?
I was not.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Redirect?
And the exemplars that you were waiting for before you continued any examination of this letter, you were waiting for those exemplars from Mr. Carroll's office staff, isn't that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you've never been given them?
No.
Thank you.
All right, is this witness subject to recall? Not, nope, that's, okay. Is witness subject to recall?
No, Your Honor.
Is he subject to recall? Is a possibility, okay. Since you might be subject to recall, I just want to remind you not to discuss your testimony with anybody, and you're still under the rule for witnesses, okay, sir?
Okay.
All right, thank you. You're free to go for today, though. All right, would this be a good time for lunch? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take our lunch break then until 2 o'clock. Again, just don't do any outside research, and please don't discuss this case with anybody, okay? Thank you. All right, so 2 o'clock then, or anything else we need to discuss? We're good for 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock, Mr. Carroll? All right, 2 o'clock, thank you.
All rise.
Courtroom proceedings of the Brendan Banfield Murder Trial. Just breaking here for lunch. Typically about an hour-long lunch. So in between the lunch period, Katie Lesso and I will be joining you all with sort of going through what we just saw in day 4 of the Brendan Banfield trial, and then also take you back to earlier this week, because this has been not only the start of a 4-week trial, but a very eventful one. It has been moving very quickly. Already have spoken to the star witness and a number of witnesses. We just ended with a Douglas Gudikins, on the stand there. He is a fingerprint specialist with Fairfax County Police, and he may be recalled back into the courtroom. But Katie, let's start back to what this case centers around. And it centers around the deaths back in 2023 of Christine Banfield, Brendan's wife, and a man named Joseph Ryan, who was a stranger to the family, lured to the family as part of a larger concocted scenario, right, of how Brendan and the au pair
We're having an affair.
We're having an affair. We're trying to get rid of Christine, the wife.
Right.
So this is, you know, I want to remind viewers, I think there's this fascination with this story too, because this is suburban family. I mean, we've seen the neighborhood, we've seen the home.
Beautiful home.
A beautiful home in Herndon, Virginia. You have Brendan Banfield, a father, a husband, a IRS crime investigator. Christine, a pediatric intensive care nurse. And they hired an au pair from Brazil to come live with them to care for their 4-year-old daughter.
Right, and this isn't the first time they had hired an au pair. We know that they previously had a different au pair, but she joined the family, I believe, in 2021. You know, it wasn't until the following year, so 2022, around August, that's when she told prosecutors that that affair began, the physical relationship, as she called it. She said it wasn't serious. And then just a few months later, October of 2022, is when she says Brendan came to her with this elaborate plan to get rid of his wife. He wanted to be with her, she says. So
it's one heck of a story.
Certainly is.
And we have really heard some disturbing details play out in court, some disturbing evidence presented, but let's bring everybody up to speed now. So here we are with the trial, And Brenden is facing 4 counts of aggravated murder, along with child abuse and child endangerment charges and gun charges. And Juliana has pled guilty. She was the first to be arrested. She pled guilty to a lesser charge of a manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter. So now she is working for the prosecutors and testifying against Brenden, her ex-lover.
And she was arrested in October, I believe, of 2023. So, you know, quite a while after this happened. This happened in February of 2023. There were no arrests made in this case until October of 2023. And that first arrest, it was Juliana Peres Magalhães. She was initially charged with murder. And, you know, we've learned the past few days a lot of what went into her, like what she was going through while she was behind bars. Brenden was not charged with anything. He was at home, you know, with his 4-year-old daughter. And, you know, we learned a lot about their relationship and how it kind of changed over the course of those months that played out. Brenden would not be arrested until September, I believe, of 2024. So, you know, a lot happened in that time span. And we heard her talking a lot about the letters she was writing to Brenden, and we can talk about some of those letters. You know, we talked about it before the break, but the letters started out as love letters to Brenden, saying she wasn't going to let anything happen to him, but then escalated to her complaining about her attorney and even questioning her relationship with Brenden at points. So that was brought up a lot yesterday. And then, you know, Brenden's arrested in September. She then takes a plea agreement, and this plea agreement is done about a month before she's set to go on trial for the manslaughter charges. So a lot of questions by the defense there about what the reason was for her timing and all of this. Right. She had been very clear. She wanted to get out of jail. She did not want to be there anymore. She's dealing with depression, anxiety. She was on meds at one point. So a lot there.
Yeah, and the defense worked very hard. Brenden's attorney, John Carroll, worked hard yesterday trying to basically, you know, find flaws in her story, poke holes in her story that the prosecution had laid out the day before. Let's take our viewers back to day 1 of this trial, aside from the jury selection, day 1 of the actual trial, where we heard those chilling 911 calls. Yeah. This was part of the story layout that we got. The lay of the land, so to speak. I think we have those 911 tapes, right?
And there are multiple 911 calls. So the first 911 call, that's at 7:47 the morning of February 24th, 2023.
The day of the killings.
Right. And all you hear in that audio, which we are not going to play for you, it's incredibly disturbing. But this is a 911 call that Juliana says she did make because Christine, who had been, you know, injured at this point in some capacity, she screamed to Juliana, call 911. And Juliana calls 911, but then hangs up. But before she hangs up, I think it's about 7 seconds, you hear this awful moaning sound. So we're not going to play that for you. It's just incredibly disturbing. You know, you then hear the Fairfax 911 center. They call the number back, which we believe is Juliana's number. They call it back and they say, if you have an emergency, give us a call back. There's no answer from Juliana on that. It isn't until about 15 minutes later that Juliana makes that second 911 call.
At 8:02, I believe.
At 8:02 a.m. And that's what we want to play for you if we can right now.
February 24, 2023, 8:02:05.
Fairfax County 911, where's your emergency?
I need help. There is my friend, she just was stuck in the night now. She's bleeding a lot. I don't know what to do anymore.
Okay, where are you located? What's your address?
Oh my God.
Take a deep breath for me. Just let me know your address.
It's 1-3-1-3.
Okay, 1-3. Take a deep breath for me. You're on Stablebrook Way? Are you on Stablebrook Way? What's your house number?
It's what's the number of this?
Is there somebody else there that can give me the address?
13230 Stablebrook Way.
Okay. And what's your name and what's going on?
My name is Brendan Banfield. I'm a federal agent. This is my house. There's somebody here. I shot him. But he stabbed her. She's bleeding. She's got several marks on her neck. What do I do?
Okay, so what I need you to do is apply direct pressure directly to where she's bleeding from, okay? And if it becomes soaked, just add more cloth to what is already there. How old is the person?
I don't know.
The person that's bleeding?
37.
Okay. Okay, so the person that you shot, where is he?
I don't know. I don't know him.
Okay, where is he though?
He's here. He's on the ground.
Okay. Okay. And the person that he stabbed, where are they now? Are they still in the hospital? I have rescue coming to you.
He's bleeding. It's my wife.
It just is what I doesn't know what to do.
Okay, so I want you to get a clean cloth and apply direct pressure to where you're bleeding from, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, are you the one that's bleeding? Just keep applying pressure, don't remove it. If it becomes soaked, just add more cloth to what is already there. Do not use a tourniquet. If one is already on, don't remove it, and don't throw or flush any blood-soaked items, okay? And sir, I need you not to touch the weapons or disturb the scene at all, and don't touch or remove any impaled object, okay? Sir, hello? Ma'am, can you hear me?
Let me.
Okay. Are you the one that was injured?
She's not responding.
I was wondering why he's living.
Okay. Can you tell me how her breathing is?
I just how her breathing is.
She's heart's still beating. She's still breathing.
Okay. Just keep applying pressure to where she's bleeding from and just put her on her side, okay?
On her side?
Yeah, on her side. You said she's breathing normally, she's just not responding to you?
She's got a very big hole in her neck.
Okay. Just keep applying pressure, okay? Just keep adding more cloth that's already there. And who am I speaking to? Who are you, dear? Are you?
What?
Okay, so who's the person? Where's the person that's bleeding? Where are they in the house?
They're upstairs.
Okay.
In the bedroom.
Okay, and where is the person that was shot? Are they also in the house downstairs?
Yes.
Yeah, he's in the bedroom too.
Okay. Okay.
Can you just send help, please?
Yeah, they're on the way. They're coming to you now, lights and sirens, okay? And any weapon is secured, correct?
Again?
Any weapon is secured?
I have the weapon.
Okay, can you just leave it where it is?
Yeah.
Okay. And you say you don't know the individual that was shot?
No.
Whenever they the person.
And sir, where are you? Are you taking care of the person upstairs?
I'm trying.
I was trying, but
Okay.
it takes too long.
Okay, I have officers that are pulling up outside, okay? So just make sure the weapon is placed where it is and it's secure, and just keep applying pressure. And make sure your door is unlocked. Can we make sure that's done?
All right.
Okay. And if there's any animals, please make sure they're put away.
I'm up the door.
Okay. I'm going to lock the door. What is it?
Okay, so make sure your weapon is down, sir, and that you're coming to the door with your hands up so the officers can see you.
Okay. I'm unlocked.
Okay, and the weapon is down?
Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Are they coming?
Yeah, they're on the way. You should see them soon. They're pulling up outside right now. Let me know when you can see them, okay?
I can see them?
You should be able to see them soon.
Huh? I hear them.
Okay, so are we... Okay, and no one has a weapon, right? The weapon's down?
The weapons are down.
Okay.
That one's down.
I hear them.
Okay. They're pulling up outside. Just keep applying pressure to where she's bleeding from and just make sure she's okay.
Can we doing this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know when the officers are with you.
Want to come here?
Yeah, they're pulling up now. They're gonna make their way to you. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm showing them outside.
I'm here.
They're here. They can come in.
I'll go ahead and disconnect with you. Speak to the police, okay?
Come in. You guys. It's right here.
Where's it going at?
We need help.
Where's it going at?
It's up here.
Right here on the bed.
He's in the house with you. So, we
My house.
this is going on.
Hey, right downstairs?
Huh?
My God.
February 24, 2023, 8:10:38.
Yeah, so what you just heard, that was that 911 call. You can hear police officers responding there towards the very end, but you could also just hear the range of emotions. Juliana just completely out of breath in the beginning. And then you hear Brenden take over the call and kind of explain, my name is Brendan
Seemed a little
Banfield.
bit more composed.
Right, and he says I'm a federal officer. He does make a point to say that pretty early on.
So that was about 8 minutes long, approximately, the morning of the killings. Right now, let's head out to our Matthew Torres, who has been inside the courtroom. He's been covering this for us since day one and will continue to be in that courtroom every single day, Monday through Thursday. Matthew, are you with us? It's Annie and Katie.
Hey Annie, yeah, I can hear you guys. So right now we're in lunch break, and it will go on until 2 p.m. when, of course, we will be returning back into the courtroom. And just as we left, we heard from the fingerprint examiner, as you guys have also been watching, ruling that the fingerprints on the knife that was found in that bedroom, the knife prosecutors say was used to stab Christine Banfield in the neck multiple times, came back inconclusive for both Brendan Banfield and Joseph Ryan's fingerprints. So this is one of the weapons that was apparently used during this crime. We also got to see some pictures of that crime scene, specifically some of the blood stains on the floor. We didn't see any of the bodies. These were photos taken of the bedroom after their bodies were removed. And interestingly, being in the courtroom, I'm about a couple rows behind Christine Banfield's family. During this time, they didn't even bother looking at the screens in the gallery where they showed those photos. Even though you didn't see her body at all, just the blood stains alone, they kept their head forward, their eyes straight forward. There were moments where they did look up at the screen, maybe when they showed some invoices, whether that be buying the gun or buying the window pane glasses. Those were the moments they really looked at the screen. But when it came to anything regarding Christine Banfield, regarding blood from her bedroom, that was something they really just avoided, and something that I certainly noticed. Brendan Banfield the whole time staying focused as well, looking back at his attorney John Carroll as he is questioning some of these investigators taking the stand today. And I also want to note that when they did show the blood stain, particularly when you're facing the bed, that photo on the right side where you saw the two blood stains, one was darker and then the other apparently enough blood where it seeped under the carpet. Whenever the investigators that that was where Christine's body was. Some lady behind me, you heard her whisper, "Oh my God," just to show you the idea of how much blood there was there on the floor, and it brought you back to the details from the medical examiner of the type of injuries that she sustained, specifically the multiple severe stab wounds to her neck. So during that time as well, no one really winced or looked upset looking at these pictures from the jurors. Mind you, they did see body cam footage the first day of testimony already of the crime scene with Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield's bodies there in that room. Several of them taking notes. They're attentive, they're paying attention. Of course, so is the judge, who's very prompt with all of her questioning and all of her directions as well. And so we are anticipating to see potentially more body cam footage. We know we've already obtained video of whenever the detective was speaking to Juliana Magalhães outside of that house. And so this is the day really that we're seeing a lot of evidence now from this, including that gun, the duty gun that was allegedly used to shoot Joseph Ryan. But if anything, and you guys have probably talked about this, what's also standing out is when that lead crime scene investigators talked about seeing Joseph Ryan on the ground there, his legs underneath the bed. Joseph Ryan's head was apparently on the dog bed as well as on the bottom, the pajama bottoms of Christine Banfield, the checkered ones there. I'm not sure if you guys were able to see the pictures because they do show blood during that time. But that's something that people were really paying attention to because we didn't expect to really see any crime scene photos that showed blood, but the fact that that was after their bodies were removed, I think gave a reason for us to see it publicly. Guys.
Yeah, and Matthew, we're going to get to that body camera footage of Juliana outside in just a few moments, but I do have a question for you. Right at the beginning of the, today's opening, we did hear the judge getting pretty frustrated with the prosecutor. It sounded like she was asking for more time to allow them to view some of the photos that we obviously were about to see. Can you talk about those moments and kind of the reaction from the jury as she was expressing that frustration with the prosecutor?
Yeah, so I kind of came in a little bit at that time as they were reviewing it because obviously the defense wanted more time to do it. As I mentioned earlier, the judge is very prompt. She expects these attorneys to do what they have to do, no more delays. The judge was expecting this to maybe not even go for 4 weeks. And so as far as the jury, of course, they were trying to question what's going on here. But if there is a really good example of what they may have, taken account of was specifically yesterday when everyone was coming back from the lunch break and the judge who told everyone to be back by 2 p.m., the prosecutors were a little bit late. Her answer to them was, when I say 2 p.m., I mean 2 p.m. So just the fact that we're starting out this trial today, even though it's just a few minutes later than normal, it just shows you how serious this judge is when it comes to being on time and to make sure all of the dots have been crossed and T's lined just so we can get this going. And that is something that the jury is taking into account, but certainly all of the evidence that we are seeing that's taking precedence today.
Matthew, it's Annie. I think it's a reminder to viewers as well that this is a rare moment that we are allowed to be inside this courtroom for this trial. I believe in just recent years, this is the second time that media cameras have been allowed inside. Mm-hmm. The last one maybe being Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case. Give us a sense of what the mood is inside the courtroom as you have been covering it now for 4 days. Is it overall a stoic mood? What is the what are you picking up in between the breaks? And just give us a little sense of what it's like to be there in the courtroom.
That's a really good way of putting it. Stoic mood might be the case. You mentioned the Johnny Depp trial. This judge was the same judge during that trial as well. So she certainly is experienced when it comes to having cameras in the courtroom and having a trial be so high profile. But as far as in between, at the hallways, when the breaks, people are really keeping to themselves. We see the attorneys leaving, we acknowledge them, we nod their head. Banfield's parents, as soon as they leave, they kind of walk out and do their own thing, keep separate. It's very interesting. The parents of Christine and the parents of Brendan Banfield, they really haven't been each other's, I should say, they haven't really crossed paths. They go in first into the courtroom, and then Banfield's parents go into the courtroom, so they've really maintained that distance between them. Compared to yesterday, I would say there are fewer people in the courtroom today, probably because Juliana isn't testifying, at least today. And so she certainly was the critical moment for everyone paying attention to this trial, to hear her every last word as far as her testimony. And so a lot of people are taking notes. There are people who aren't even members of the media or work for any law office or the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. They're here just paying attention, taking notes. One of them, who I've already started talking to, she's going to be here as much as possible, probably every day like we are, to pay attention to this. So it gives you an idea that there's such a keen interest, especially from the public. And even, last night, I went to dinner, and the trial was the topic of conversation, and people were so invested in wanting to know every single detail. Of course, it is so salacious, but you do have attorneys even going in and out. I hear them saying, I'm just popping my head in just to find out what's going on. When you have such a high-profile case, it becomes such a huge draw. But as far as the mood, professional, straightforward, pretty stoic. Ever so often you see some jurors kind of look around to the gallery. There's one woman at the back corner who's kind of doing that. Makes you think if she's paying attention sometimes. Another guy putting his head down. But a lot of note-taking from jurors today, specifically.
I think this is a case that has drawn just, shock and disbelief. It's a case filled with deception and violence, of course. You're trying to wrap your head around the details here. Matt, you are there, right inside that courtroom. Are you hearing any rumblings, chatter about the possibility of Brendan Banfield taking the stand?
So that's a really good question. At this point, no. But we are all wondering that same thing too. Is he going to take the stand? I think that opens up a lot of debate, criticism as well from the Commonwealth if he gets to do that. I mean, certainly for us following this case, we'd love to hear from him, right? The only thing we're hearing as far as his voice was that 911 call, and other video was him going to that McDonald's, 15 to 20 minutes before that first 911 call was made. But so far, no indication. We did try to ask the defense attorney that, John Carroll. We'll try to ask again, and hopefully we'll get a better answer by tomorrow.
All right, Matthew Torres, thank you for all of your hard work out there. I know you've got about 35 minutes or so before you have to get back inside the courtroom, so we'll let you get back there. Thank you so much.